Okay, it depends on if you want to talk about Gary Williams or Wildman, because to me they're two completely different guys. Gary Williams is like this really nice, polite, loving boyfriend, really, calm kind of guy, and Wildman is a fucking lunatic who's all greased up and fucking crazy, and he looks like he's gonna rip your head off.
I remember the first time I ever saw Gary Williams wrestling. It was probably 97 or 98. I went to a Grand Prix wrestling show with my dad, and I was sitting front row, and he came out, and I was just right on the wrestlers that night yelling at them. He got right in my face, and during the match he spat on me. So he was wrestling Chi-Chi that night, and Chi-Chi threw him out in front of me, and I spat right on Gary. It was hilarious. And now, I tell him that now, because it's really funny, and he gives me a dirty look. Gary's an awesome guy. I'm so glad that I was able to get trained by him. So much wisdom he's taught us, and I just feel like I've had the best training around.
Well, one thing about Gary's school that I think sets it apart is he has a no-pressure type of teaching style, which I feel is really effective. It works well on everybody, especially people who really can't get it the first time. I think the more assertive style would kind of push them away. But Gary definitely, there's a lot of respect for Gary there, and you definitely want to do it for Gary, and that's the whole thing. So a lot of respect for Gary.
Gary Williams is the man. Seriously, I came to his school, and I've been having non-stop fun ever since. After all the hard work's done, he's a really great guy. He wants to see you succeed. He has patience. All around good guy.
Alright, what to say about Gary? He is definitely the most patient person I've ever met in my whole entire life. He's willing to put up with the fact that I couldn't jump for almost 4 weeks into our class. I think it's great. I'm finally starting to get it. Still suck at a lot of stuff, but he's still patient, still wants me to get where I want to be, so I'm very happy to be part of his school, and I'm really glad he took me in.
I think Gary's an awesome trainer. He doesn't believe in the whole I'll hurt you and then you'll do it better sort of method. He's just really understanding and he wants us all to succeed. He's a good guy for training and a really good wrestler, one of the best in Canada in my opinion. Knows both about wrestling and fitness and how to look like a wrestler, so there's not much better places to go than you.
Gary's such an incredible wrestler. Every day his patience amazes me more and more with us. I've never once, since I've started, heard him raise his voice at all or anything. He's so patient and I'm so thankful to be training here.
When I first decided to go to Wildman Academy, I was very nervous. I didn't know what to expect. But then after I got here, I realized how laid back Gary was, but yet he showed a lot of discipline at the same time. He made us all feel really good about ourselves, and it was really fun. All of us became kind of like family. Gary's probably the most patient guy you'll ever meet. He's a really good trainer, and there's no one out there like Gary.
Gary Williams is probably one of the best wrestlers Maritime's ever seen. He's a very good trainer through his Wildman Academy and exemplifies everything as a student would want to be a trainer. He's fair, he's patient, and he knows how to tell people what they're doing right and what they're doing wrong without hurting their morale or their spirit.
Alright, the date is February 18th, 2006. We're on location at Tony Armstrongs' apartment. Today we have Maritime wrestling legend, Wildman Gary Williams. How you doing today, Gary?
I'm good, how are you?
I'm good.
This is a fine establishment here at Tony's apartment.
All right, we'll start off. Just a basic question. How did you get involved in the wrestling business?
I guess I never got involved in it until I was a later age. But man, when I was younger, I just used to stay up late on Saturday nights and just watch, Grand Prix wrestling. Sit with the grandparents, sit with my parents. They're always a big fan of wrestling. And I guess just from there, I just had a dream like any other kid, and just decided to capitalize on it and actually do it. But I've been a fan since I was just a little kid.
When you decided to get involved, who did you go to first? Who trained you?
Well, it's kind of a long process. The first time I seriously decided to get into wrestling, I guess it would have been back when I was about 18, 19 years old. Stephen Pettipaw had a school out in Dieppe, New Brunswick, where I was living. And, so I showed my face, I wanted to get trained. He told me, come back when you're 200 pounds. That's what Stephen Pettipaw told me, just to get trained. Because, back in those days, you had to be a big guy to get trained in wrestling. So, anyways, I kept plucking away. I'd keep going on Monday nights in Cocaine, going to watch Grand Prix wrestling. And I did the same thing. I tracked down Emile Dupree. He was walking up, going to the canteen at the Cocaine Arena. And I stopped and I said, excuse me, my name is Gary Wildman, blah, blah, blah. And surprisingly enough, he told me the exact same thing. He just looked at me and goes, when you're 200 pounds, give me a call. And that was it, right? So I thought to myself, well, obviously I've got to put on some size. Back then, I was probably, I don't know, 160 pounds, 170 pounds, something like that. Wasn't a very big guy. So just decided to put some size on. Gave it a couple of years, and then I started looking into wrestling schools around the world. I tried, I called, what's his name, Exotic Adrian Street, called him in Florida. I tried to get a hold of the Hart brothers, but I couldn't. I got in touch with Al Snow, actually, his school out in Lima, Ohio. And I actually got to talk to him on the phone. This is back when I was, I would have been about 20 years old at that point. And I had a really good conversation with him. He was the first guy to ever shoot with me as far as wrestling is not all glitz and glamour, and it's not just, you get trained and you're a pro wrestler. He actually sat there on the phone and told me, he says, kid, you come here, you're trained for 10 weeks. He says, once the 10 weeks is done, he says, I can give you a first match, because I think he ran like little shows here and there. Back at the time, he was with Smoky Mountain Wrestling. So he said, kid, once you're done here, you're on your own. Right? He was pretty flat out. There's no bullshit, right? So I appreciated that, because all the other schools were like, yeah, come here, kid. I'll make a superstar out of you. You'll be on TV. Just give me a lot of bullshit. At the time, it's nice to hear that stuff, but back in my mind, I knew it was pretty much bullshit. Just trying to get my money, right? But Al Snow was the most honest guy. So anyway, I was thinking I'm just going to go to this guy. But then it came to the problem of, I'm a 19-year-old kid, I got a little shit-ass job, and how am I going to make the money, or get the money, to go out there? And while I'm out there, there's no way of me making any money, right? So anyway, to make a long story short, I just kind of kiboshed that whole idea, and just kind of put it on the back burner, I guess, I just kind of let wrestling, just let it fade out of my, not fade out of my mind, I'm still a huge, huge fan, but just kind of lost hope of ever becoming a wrestler at that point. And then it was in would have been 95. A friend of mine calls me up. His name's Jason Geddes, if ever he's even watching this. But he calls me up and says, I've seen something on breakfast television this morning. And it was Todd McPhee, Frank Parker, and Kurgan that were doing a breakfast television thing. I think they were trying to get sponsors. They were trying to get a show together. So anyway, my buddy showed me the videotapes. He taped that breakfast television, so they left a phone number for people to call that want to give him money. I was like, yeah, I'll give him money. I want to get trained, right? So I pick up the phone, I called that phone number, and it was Frank Parker that answered the phone. So I just called, just the mark that I was, and I'm like, hey man, what's going on? I saw your show on breakfast television, and I told him, I said, I want to be a professional wrestler. And he's like, oh. He says, well, we weren't really expecting this kind of phone call, but so he gave me Todd McPhee's number, and I got in touch with him. And what Todd did, because he didn't have a ring at the time or any place to train, but what Todd did, he says, come down to Spring Hill, which was 45 minutes from my house where I live in Moncton. And so I drove down there 2 or 3 times a week, and we were practicing in a classroom in one of his old junior highs or something in Spring Hill. And we laid an Olympic wrestling mat on the ground, and he was teaching me, you know, the basic stuff, lockups, headlocks, hip tosses, bumps, you know, all the basic stuff you learn from the beginning. And I'll tell you, there's no give on a cement floor in the school. It was pretty rough, but it was good to learn like that, because when I finally did get in a ring, then it was, you know, I really appreciated the comfort of a little bit of give. But anyway, so I went there for a few months. Finally, in '96, Todd tells me that Emile Dupree is supposed to start up wrestling in '97. So I'm ecstatic. I'm just like, man, here's my fucking break, right? So anyway, me and Todd went up and we went to meet Emile Dupree. He knew him before because he worked for him and stuff. But it was my first time meeting Emile Dupree. So I was about 190 pounds at that point. So anyway, I put on about 3 sweaters and, you know, try to look all puffy and big, and let the hair down, you know, so you can see what kind of look I got. And we went to Emile's house, and I remember Emile, he looked at me, he goes, Jesus Christ, you know something? You got a good look, you're tall, you gotta put on some size. And I was thinking, fuck man, I got 3 sweaters on, how can you tell, right? But Emile's no fool. I mean, he knows, you know, sweaters and muscle, the difference. I suppose I know that too now. But anyway, so basically Emile said, this was around October, November of 96. So anyway, he says, come back in about March or April and we'll start training you. He says, in the meantime, put on some size, and then we'll bring in the ring, see what he can do, and if I did good, I was on the tour. So man, that was like probably the happiest moment of my life, and it probably always will be. So anyway, for the, you know, from November, October, whatever it was, right up till the spring when I was going to a train, I took my vitamins and just got big. You know, I got from 190 to 230 pounds, and I showed up at the training session, and Emile was like, Jesus Christ, you put on some size, you know? And I was like, well, you know, I want to do this. So I think that proved right there that, you know, I wanted this. It wasn't just something that, you know, I liked it. This was something that I was serious about, and I was going to do it no matter what. So anyway, he set up the ring. First it was in his garage. We did that for a couple of weeks, and then the ceiling was too low, so he rented some hall or whatever it was. And we went there and did about 5 weeks of training. Hubert Gallant was my primary trainer. Emile was more like, you know, he knew the little stuff, but he wasn't comfortable training. Called up Hubert. Hubert came, and me and him trained, and we just clicked, man. He was like an awesome trainer. So guys like Butcher Vachon came down to help out, give us a little 2 cents. And it was cool, man. I mean, back at that time, I'd never met any wrestler before. You know, like this was the first time, you know, like I'd seen Stephen Petitbine stuff, but like, you know, Butcher Vachon comes down, I'm like, oh my God, it's Butcher Vachon, right? So it was really cool. You know, I learned a lot, and we did that for about 5-6 weeks, and became match #1.
Now, during your training, you're in a training school now, you see students having problems with certain things, learn to pick it up. Was there any one thing that you had a hard time learning, or did you pick everything up fairly quickly?
I was a natural in wrestling. It wasn't that hard for me to learn. Everything that I had to learn and work hard is fine-tuning. The small little things that now as a trainer I stress to the students. But as far as, you know, bumping, doing the moves, headlocks, takeovers, stuff like that, it came to me pretty naturally. So I mean, I was very lucky in that way that it wasn't a huge battle for me to learn. Like, you know, some people have a hard time. It's just not in them, right? But some people learn, some people don't. But luckily, I was lucky.
Your first tour featured such stars as Edge, Christian Cage, Bad News Brown, Bad News Allen, Cyrus, Rick Martel, Scott D'Amore. What was it like being on tour with those guys so early in your career?
Well, that's an interesting question. I mean, Bad News Brown, of course, was fantastic. Rick Martel. At the time, I didn't really know who Don Callis was, Cyrus. I didn't know who Adam and Jay were, Edge and Christian, and Scott D'Amore, and Mike Lazansky was another guy. These guys were just guys that were down wrestling, because at the time they weren't the superstars that they are now. But I mean, now that I look back, it was just, I mean, I often tell this story to my students or whoever I talk to about how good I had it the first year of wrestling. Because I mean, that whole roster was just a fountain of information. I mean, like the guys you listed off. First guy I sat down and talked with, I remember it was the first show. We were in Truro, Nova Scotia, and me and Bad News are sitting in the dressing room, and everybody else was outside watching the matches. So he's like right by the door in the dressing room, and I'm way on the other side. So I just got up and walked up to him. I said, Bad News, I said, as you know, I'm just starting out in the business. I said, what's the best advice that you can give a guy like myself? And Bad News just looked at me, he goes, kid, he says, keep your ears open and your mouth shut at all times. And I was like, all right, good enough. I was expecting, go in the match and do this, but that's the advice that he gave me right up top. And I was just like, okay, it didn't really it made sense to me at the time, but now this is advice that I give to everybody, because it is so true that you have to take everything in, and don't walk into a dressing room where you're new to the business or you're new to the territory and start flapping your jaws, because automatically you're like, who the fuck's this guy, right? I mean, Flesh is a perfect example, Paul Cozier. I mean, he is the craziest motherfucker that I know. I mean, there is nothing this guy will do. You know him, right? You've hung out with the guy. I mean, just crazy as crazy can be. But the first day he stepped into Real Action Wrestling, coming from, was it Grand Prix or was it?
Yeah, 2001, after they closed.
And I didn't know him at the time, so I just walked into the dressing room in Charlottetown, PEI, as a matter of fact. And this big motherfucker sitting there in Flesh, and I'm like, I just go up, so I just sat down and say a word. And then when everybody was in there, he got up, went and introduced everybody, himself to everybody, shook their hand, sat down, never said a word. And like, to think of that now, I'm like, wow, he's just one of those guys who knows how to be professional in the dressing room. As crazy and as loud and as he is, he knows that first impression, you just gotta lay back. Because if he was to bring his usual attitude to a fresh dressing room that nobody knows him, dude, get this fucking guy out of here, he's crazy, you know what I mean? So that's the best example there.
Now, after the Grand Prix Tour in 1997, Leo Burke invited you out to train with Bret Hart. Mm-hmm. Tell us about that.
Wow, that was, aside from actually getting into wrestling and starting a career in wrestling, that was definitely a huge high for myself in my career. I think we wrestled the first summer with Grand Prix. We did about 2-3 months, 7 nights a week wrestling, and then Leo came down during that time and he asked me to go up to train with Bret Hart and the rest of the guys there. And I was just baffled, like, wow, like this. First of all, I met Leo Burke for the first time. That was like, oh my God, because Leo Burke was my favorite local guy to watch. And it's funny because Leo Burke was my favorite guy, Grand Prix, around here, and Bret Hart was my all-time favorite wrestler. So to have these two kind of come to me and say, okay, let's go, I'm like, it was just overwhelming. So anyway, yeah, that was a huge break. I mean, I just packed up my stuff. I think he asked me to go, I forget when it was. I ended up going in January. Ended up going to Calgary. What was the first part of the question?
What was it like training with Brett?
Oh, okay. Yeah, you don't skip this on. So anyway, yeah, it was awesome. I mean, I only got to train with Brett directly about 4 or 5 times, but being there with Leo is the only reason that I am training today. I mean, if it wasn't for Leo Burke, I'd have no business being in that ring training kids how to wrestle, because he taught me the importance of the important stuff. You know, like the stuff that a lot of trainers overlook, you know, the small things. Anybody that knows me, that's worked with me, that's trained with me, know that the small things are what counts. Anybody can do the moves. You got to know the small stuff. That's what's important.
Now, you were out training with Brett in 1997. 1997 was the year Brett and Montreal and Shawn Michaels screw job happened. Were there any talks of you going to WWE around that time? You were going out with Brett. Did that affect any Canadian talent going to WWE at that time?
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. To this day, I still feel that if it wasn't for the whole incident with Bret Hart and Shawn Michaels, I truly feel that I probably have a spot in WWF today. WWE, whatever, WWF at the time. I mean, the way it went, when I got to Calgary, when I was asked to go to Calgary, I was thinking to myself, man, you know, Edge was just there, Christian was just there, and Leo had the power to just call up Vince and say, listen, I'm sending 2 guys up, take a look, see what you think. So I thought for sure, man, this is my ticket, man, I'm in, right? Test, Andrew Martin was another guy. I mean, Leo called up, I've got a guy for you, check him out, boom, signed. So I come in right after this, thinking, I've got a deal, you know. I guess my hopes were maybe a little too high, but the whole thing with Shawn Michaels and Brett that happened, Leo and Brett were kind of a package deal. Leo was like the Canadian talent guy for WWF at the time, and Brett, of course, worked for WWF, and they were just together. And so when that whole thing happened, when Brett lost his job, Leo lost his job. So then it's like, shit. So when Leo lost his job with the WWF, you know, I'm sitting there thinking, fuck, what does this mean? And Leo's like, well, he says, we'll see if we can get a job with WCW, right? Because Brett had signed with WCW, and Brett worked out a deal that if he joins WCW, that Leo gets the same deal, like that he gets the train and blah, blah, blah. So yeah, we went on, did the training with WCW. But I mean, it was just a clusterfuck, man. I mean, it's just fucking. I mean, you got WCW had a roster of I don't know how many guys. Guys get paid $75,000 a year, and they've wrestled maybe twice in a year. You know, they just had too many guys. I mean, this is why the company's not open today, because it was just so disorganized. It wasn't even funny. I got a good story for it. One time, Kevin Nash, which was the booker at the time, called up Leo Burke, flew him down to North Carolina. So Leo's like, oh, okay, there must be a meeting, or maybe they want me to, you know, do a scout talent, or whatever, check somebody out. Kevin Nash goes, yeah, you'll be working third against fucking Disco Inferno. Leo just laughed. He says, Jesus Christ. He says, what the fuck? He says, no. He says, I'm a trainer. So Kevin Nash was just like, oh, what are you doing here, or something like that, right? And so anyway, Kevin, this is just an example of how unorganized they are. I mean, they had no clue who it's like they picked names on the roster. Well, let's bring this guy. He's employed with WCW. You know, like this guy could be a fucking janitor. They call him for a match, right? So it was just really fucked up, and it was unfortunate because I had a bunch of matches with them, but it was just too unorganized to even be noticed.
Now, while you were out west, did you work for any wrestling promotions out there when you were training with Brett?
Oh yeah.
So what promotions?
Well, on my way down to Calgary before I even got out there, I forget who I got these bookings from now. I think it might have been Leo. Anyway, when I came down, I flew out of Moncton, or actually, yeah, whatever, I flew out of Moncton, and I stopped in Regina and did 2 shows. I got to work Kerry Brown, Maritimers are known as Rick Valentine here, or yeah, Rick Valentine here. So I got to work him in Regina and Yorkton, Saskatchewan. so I worked for Tony for those 2 shows. Then I got to Calgary. Leo got me hooked up with Stampede Wrestling, so I started doing a few shows with them here and there. And then finally, then I got hooked up with Can-Am Wrestling and did a crap load of tours with these guys. That's pretty much who I worked for out west. Didn't do a whole lot of stuff in BC except for Can-Am tours. Never worked for WCCW or ECCW, whatever they're called. Worked for some new promotions that kind of opened up and closed down in Calgary, like Western Canadian Extreme Wrestling. They had a really good thing going, but it lasted a few months. And that was just bad management. Massive Damage has a promotion out there that started a few years ago. Monster Pro Wrestling, worked for them. Mike McFly didn't really run a promotion, but did a few shows. Worked for him. That's about it, pretty much. Twin Towers, guys out of Ontario, they did a tour of Inuvik, way north of Canada, a fucking iceberg somewhere. I worked for them while I was out there. Bad News got me that gig. I got to work Hacksaw Jim Duggan there, so I was cool in Brewer's Beefcake too. So that's pretty much all the promotions I've worked for out there.
Now you mentioned working with Stampede at the time. That was probably the equivalent of Grand Prix in the Maritimes. What are your thoughts on the Hart family and their Stampede Wrestling?
Wow, the Hart family. I became somewhat close with a lot of the Hart family members. You know, Brett, got to know him personally. Owen Hart, got to see him on a few occasions. Davey Boy Smith, got to train with him and all that kind of stuff, so that was really good. The Hart family in general, I think they are a dysfunctional family. I don't think that's a secret to anybody. I think they all have their personal demons and they let it affect each other's relationships. Because, I mean, you know, there's Georgia, she's one of Brett's sisters. Just a fantastic woman. I mean, she would rip the shirt off her back for anybody. She's just so genuine and so sweet, just a lovely woman. Then you got, you know, Keith Hart, another amazing man, a really nice guy. Brett, I got along with him great. Never really heard too many bad things about Brett. Davey Boy he was a great guy. Owen Hart was probably the best of the Harts. You know, he was very, you know, family guy kind of thing. I met Smith once actually, but we won't even talk about him. Stu and Helen, they're just amazing people. I mean, I sat down at the table and talked to Stu, and man, the stories he would come up with were just insane, you know. Like a 15-minute story would take him like an hour and a half. You know, he said, you know that fucking guy in big motherfucker, Leo Burke, you know, fucking. I said, yeah, man, Leo Burke trained me, you know. Yeah, Leo Burke in 1976 against that cocksucker, little bastard, David Schultz, yeah, little cocksucker. Him and Leo, 76, they fucking had a great fucking match. I mean, that's just an example. Like, the guy would just go on, and every second, to me, was just amazing. I mean, I am honored that I actually got to know Stu before he passed away, and got to be in his presence. I mean, anybody in wrestling is definitely one of these things, you know, like a lot of wrestlers that, you know, want to go to Japan, you want to do this, you want to do that. Meeting Stu Hart and working for Stampede is probably one of everybody's, you know, top of the list thing, right? I mean, now it's kind of hard because Stu's gone and Stampede Wrestling is, you know, it's not what it used to be. But yeah, that's pretty much, I mean, it's too bad that the Hart family was like that they were, you know, a lot of them didn't get along, but I think just the star power, I mean, being brought up in a complete wrestling family, I can't imagine that. I mean, you can't, for myself, wrestling is my job, wrestling is my career, wrestling is what I love, but I can't have wrestling. Like if my girlfriend was a wrestler and my dad was a wrestler, it's just too much. It's just wrestling, wrestling, wrestling. You need a break. And it seems like these guys, there was nowhere to go, nowhere to talk to, especially being in Calgary. You know, at the time, you know, way back was the biggest wrestling capital of the world, really, in Canada at least. But I think that's pretty much what the problem was. It's just too much wrestling.
In March 1999, Leo Burke got you a tryout with WCW. How did that go?
It went really well. That would be the time where we went to Toronto, did Nitro, and then I believe it was Kitchener where we did Saturday night. It was the taping, whatever. And they went really well. Me and Todd McPhee were up there, and we did a match one-on-one. Jimmy Hart, J.J. Dillon, Nick Patrick, they were all there watching. Me and Todd had a fantastic match, I thought. Everything was tight, everything was solid, everything looked really good. Everything was promising. Jimmy Hart just looked at me after, he goes, "Kid, you guys got some fucking talent." And I was like, you know, wow, this is awesome. And we did this prior to the show. Like this was probably, people were starting to come in for the show for Nitro. This is when we did the tryout thing. And so yeah, he just had us go in there, have the match, and I mean, they were there, they were watching, they were looking. But again, it just, to them, you know, well, we got a couple Canadian guys here, yeah, they're fucking good, they look good, they got what it takes, but they've got a roster with probably 100 people that they don't know what to do with. And why fucking go grab some Canadians when you got all this paperwork to do, you know what I mean? I think it was just, again, unorganized, and I like to say I've always been at the wrong place at the wrong time, and that was definitely one of those times.
Did you have any dealings with Eric Bischoff while you were there, or was it just the road agents?
No, none whatsoever. I dealt with Nick Patrick, Jimmy Hart, J.J. Dillon, and that was pretty much the guys that we were dealing with.
In March of 2000, you had another tryout with WCW. Was it any different that time? Were you expecting to get signed? Or?
It was a little different because this is where I got to know Nick Patrick really well. That one there was a show in Winnipeg, and it was a house show. It was kind of a funny story to this too. So Leo Burke calls me up, says, "Okay, I've got a show for you to do. We got another tryout thing with WCW." I'm like, "Awesome." So you know, we fucking get our asses in gear and get trained up, get there all tanned up, looking good. We've got our flights paid, we've got our hotel rooms paid, we got our rent-a-car, everything's paid. You know, it's like everything's 5-star, right? So we're like, man, this is fucking great, right? So we get to Winnipeg, walk into the arena. The road agent was Nick Patrick. So we go up to him and say, "Yeah," I said, "We're here for, you know, for the match." And he's like, "What match?" I said, "Well, you know, I think Leo was working out the deal with J.J. Dillon. And obviously the message didn't come across. Nick Patrick had to call the office in Atlanta to find out what's going on. Oh, yeah, put these guys in." So the 4 guys that went up was myself, Todd McPhee, Jem, he's got Sin, whatever I want to call him, and Mike McFly. So me and McFly tagged up. We had a similar look, you know, long hair, goatee, so we had these same little, just black regular trunks. And Todd and Jem teamed up. So we just did a tag, second match, and had a fucking great match. Again, everything fucking just clicked. It was a fantastic match. But again, it's a house show. So Nick Patrick's the only guy there, and he's not a talent. Like, he's not a talent scout. He's not a, you know, he's got nothing to do with hiring or nothing. All he can do is say, "Yeah, they had a good match," which nobody probably even asked, right? So it's just, again, another example of how WCW was just throwing money away. You know, like, they probably spent $1,000, if not more, on me alone to, you know, my rent-a-car and all that bullshit, the hotel rooms, plane tickets, more than that, to each of us, right? The 5 of us, the 4 of us, and there were. So, I mean, they're just money in the wind, man. That's why they're non-existent today.
With all that going on, you eventually wound up with Real Action Wrestling back here in the Maritimes. How did you get involved with them? When did you first start out Real Action Wrestling?
First year I wrestled for them would have been 2001, I think. And I believe it was in March. They had this little 1-week tour or something like that. You would know better. What a But anyway, I can barely even remember the details from that, but all I remember, I came down for that. Basically got booked through Mike Hughes and Peter Smith. You know, I'm sure they're the ones give me the, you know, gave the good word and stuff, and obviously Warren and Brian knew who I was from my prior engagement with Grand Prix and the wrestling industry around here. Yeah, so I think it's basically just got a phone call asking if I wanted to come down. Came down, and that's where it all started, I guess.
The same year you started with Real Action, Grand Prix started back up as well in May 2001. Yeah. Did you get contacted to go back to Grand Prix at any time?
Actually, you know what? In 2001, God, memory's a little fuzzy from that. If I'm not mistaken, I don't even think I was contacted by Emil. Emil, myself and Emil, it's a lot of times, you know, when the summer would come around, I'd give Emil a call and say, hey, are you running? Are you running? I could always call him to see if he's running, right? And right up till 2001, I knew Real Action Wrestling was going to start and they were going to use me. So I don't think Emil even made the effort to contact me because he was probably thinking it was already a done deal with Real Action because I didn't call him, kind of thing. So I mean, there was no heat or animosity over it. I mean, it made things a lot easier. I didn't have to turn anybody down. I was like, yeah, I'll work for Real Action Wrestling. So, and there was no heat between me and Emil about it either. It was just, it was never even spoken about, right? It was just, it was fine.
Any idea on why Real Action Wrestling did so well that year and Grand Prix just ran a 3-week, 4-week tour?
Yeah, look at the roster. I mean, at the time, some of these guys I was just meeting for the first time, but I mean, now that I look back, I mean, that roster was just fucking amazing. I mean, it's, I would do anything to have that roster together again, you know. But I think, I mean, the roster was definitely the main part. There really wasn't any match throughout the night that people could say, yeah, that sucked. Like every match, you know, whether it was Duke McIsaac, you know, fighting Bloody Bill Scullion, whether you liked him or not, talking about Scullion or Duke McIsaac, look at their characters, right? You've got Duke McIsaac comes out with the kilt, and back at the time he was this big ugly fucker with the big goatee. It's just, it seemed like every character, if they didn't have talent, they had looks. And most of them had looks. Like Duke McIsaac has talent and looks. And Bill Scullion, he's got a look. I wouldn't say it's a good look, but it works for wrestling, okay? But, I mean, let's face it, Bill Scullion, I don't think he could have a regular match. I mean, I'm sure he could have a good match, but his thing is hardcore. That's just what Bill Scullion does. And as far as the hardcore aspect went, he did really good. I mean, he's crazy. He didn't give a shit if he busted his head. Well, obviously, I mean, he just pulled the safety pins out of his head and stuff. But I mean, people loved it, man. People just ate it up. I mean, look at all the Bloody Bill Scullion t-shirts that were sold that summer, right? People would come up. I mean, I had people come up to me, hey, you're a Wildman. Where's Bloody Bill? Like, fuck Bloody Bill, I'm Wildman. What the fuck do you want, you know? But I mean, it was a good summer, man. I mean, it was just a lot of talent.
You started your career as Wildman Austin, and in the spring of 2001, you lost a loser leaves town match. You came back, you changed your name to Wildman Gary Williams. Mm-hmm. Was that because of your pending WWE tryout, or are you just changing your name?
No, that had absolutely nothing to do with it. Basically, the story behind Wildman Austin again, this comes back to an Emile Dupree story. When I was training in wrestling, Emile was always trying to come up with a gimmick for me. So he says, you know something? He says, I've got a name for you. I'm going to call you the Wildman. So I was like, all right. But I said, there's already a Wildman in WWE, because at the time it was Mark Merrow. It doesn't matter. Wildman's just a name. You're going to be the Wildman. Then I think at first he had me as, what was it? Wildman Hughes, or so he had some last name, but then he's thought about it, and he's thinking Wildman Savage. No, that one day he walked in, confident as can be, going, you know something? Wildman Austin. And I'm thinking to myself, oh fuck, Wildman Mark Merrow, Steve Austin. This is a complete fucking ripoff, man. I'm thinking, you know, but you know what? I thought it was like going to be really bad. People are going to make fun of the name and stuff. But you know, I think it actually helped people to respond to me, actually. So I was surprised because, anyway, to go back to the story, Emile Dupree says, I'm going to be Wildman Austin. So that was a done deal. Wildman Austin posters come up. Everything's done. And this is about 2 weeks into the tour. Emile comes up to me in the dressing room. He goes, Gary, you know something? I know why the people are cheering for you all the time. There's a fucking Austin in the WWF. Or, sorry, in the WF. And I just put my head down like, oh my God. I said, I tried to tell you that at the beginning. But, yeah, he just, that was the whole story for the Wildman Austin. So anyway, that's where the Wildman Austin name came from. And when I moved to Calgary, I started wrestling. I just wanted to get rid of the Wildman for the simple fact that Wildman Mark Merrow existed at the time. I didn't want to use a same name. So I don't know even where I came up with it. I was on the internet one night and thought, hey, Bad Boy would be cool. Probably the least original thing I've ever come up with. But I figured out Bad Boy, and I was like, I think I've always liked the name Williams for the simple fact it's my middle name, and it's just more, I guess, wrestling name than Gallant or Gallant, whatever. So I figured I'm just going to go with Bad Boy Gary Williams. So I wrestled as Bad Boy Gary Williams out west for a few years. And then back when I came to Real Action Wrestling, when we did the Loser Leaves Town match, I thought, hey, this is a good way, because Mark Merrow at the time was gone. He had been gone for a year or two. I figured, fuck, I started thinking back, Wildman was a pretty good name, and it kind of suit my style of wrestling good. So I figured, you know what, I'm going to bring back Wildman, ditch the fucking shitty Bad Boy name, and just throw Williams, right? So I decided this before I came down for that Loser League, or before that tour, or whatever the fuck it was. So, and I said, well, because people in the Maritimes know me as Wildman Austin, I said, I'm going to come down with Real Action Wrestling as Wildman Austin, so everybody's going to know who it is, right? So when the Loser Leaves Town match came, I told Mike, I said, hey man, when we have the Loser Leaves Town, for me to come back, I'll just change my name. I said, yeah, Wildman Austin fucking, got beaten and he's gone, but this is Wildman Williams that's back, after the whole thing. So that's where the whole thing came around.
You wrestled against Billy Gunn shortly after WWE bought WCW.
Yeah.
How was Billy Gunn? How was that match?
Billy Gunn was fantastic. I was really blown away by how professional he was, how nice he was. I mean, you got to remember here, I've watched matches on TV where you get the jobber, the nobody wrestling the superstar, and they just kick the living piss out of these guys, right? They don't give them nothing. They just go in there and they fucking plow them down. So anyway, I got to the show, to Monday Night Raw, and I walked in there and I went to I went to talk to Tony Gurria, and I was talking to him because he was the one booking the matches and stuff, and there was about 5 or 6 of us there that were doing dark matches or just TV or whatever. So he's got the list of the guys that need workers to work with, and he's got Billy Gunn there, and he's looking around, because I tried to work with Edge, because we were good friends, and then Adam said, I'll try to get us together in a match. But Tony really didn't want to do that because we were too similar as far as like both had long hair, just not really similar, but he just wanted more of a contrast there. So he ended up putting Edge against a good friend of mine, Rick Potter, wrestled Rick Vane. And so anyway, he's got Billy Gunn and he's looking around. JD, not JD, but JP, Hotshot, Johnny Devine, he was there. There's a couple other guys from Stampedes. Anyway, so he's looking around. He says, he's almost pointing. I said, hey, I'll work Billy Gunn. And then he looked, he goes, yeah, good. So we put it down there. So he saw I had long, total different look than he is, right? So around 4 o'clock, I went into the dressing room, introduced myself. It was just him and Paul White sharing the dressing room. And we just went from there, and we went over the match. Both of these guys, Billy Gunn and Paul. And Paul was helping out, was putting in his input and stuff. And we ended up having a great match. I mean, he gave me, if you watch the match, he gave me like probably 70% of the match, right? And which I thought was really good of him, because he knows. Billy Gunn is one of the fucking better workers out there. He's the only guy you'll see go in there and give fucking arm drags and everything, right? And he's just a super athlete. So I think he's in the same frame of mind as I am. Why go in there and demolish somebody? Make it look like a match, so it's going to be, people are going to get into it, right? But yeah, it was a fantastic experience, and I'm really glad I got to work in that night.
Was there any feedback given to you on the match? Any indications they wanted you to come in?
I was dealing with Kevin Kelly at the time. I got really good feedback from Billy Gunn himself. He was very, very happy with the match. Everything went smooth. All the boys, like Edge and Christian, all these guys were. Actually, Christian wasn't there that night. It was, yeah. Anyway, they all said it was a great match. Kevin Kelly, as I'm coming out of the gorilla room, before they get ready for the show, Kevin Kelly just puts hands with, great match, kid. That was awesome, right? So. Anyway, so I was like, wow, everybody's happy with it. Kevin Kelly's happy. He was the one booking me on these shows, and everything was great. So anyway, I talked to Kevin Kelly a couple hours later when the show was wrapped up, and I said, listen, I'm going to be in the Maritimes, and Bobby Roode at the time was doing a bunch of dark matches for WWF. So I said, I'm going to be in the area, and I'm just going to go with Bobby. Bobby was booked for, I think it was Buffalo and New York. City and Buffalo, I think it was, or Pittsburgh, somewhere out there. And I said, I'm going to be with him, so can I get booked on, the Raw and SmackDown for those 2 shows? And Kevin Kelly says, yep, no problem. I said, I'll just, he says, that was like in a month or so, 2 months time. So he said, just stay in touch with me, and we'll get you booked up for those shows. Anyway, when I ended up calling, the spots were taken by people, probably local people from out there. He just said, I just don't need you. Bobby Roode ended up going anyway. But that was pretty much it. Like, it's funny because Kevin Kelly gave me a very positive feedback. It sounded good, it looked good, but then all of a sudden it was just boom. Like, it's kind of like you just shut the door, right? I don't know if it's an out of sight, out of mind kind of thing. I know once they were having a Raw and SmackDown in Toronto and somewhere else, and I called up a month ahead of time to get booked because I know how fast these spots get taken, right? And Kevin Kelly kind of got lippy on the phone saying, Jesus Christ, Gary, there's still another 2 months or 3 months, he said something. I think it was like 6 weeks before, and he said, there's still 3 months before that show, call me when it's fun. Just being a real dick to me on the phone about it. And I said, listen, man, I'm just trying to get some fucking bookings here, right? I want to show what I got, blah, blah, blah. So, all right, call me back later. And you know what? He just rubbed me the wrong way at that time. And I don't think I spoke to him after that, actually. That was pretty much the end of our communication. But I was very saddened when he lost his job.
You returned to Real Action Wrestling in the summer 2001. Had great summer of wrestling here in the Maritimes. The first TV taping was held, first ever Real Action Wrestling TV taping was held August 1st, 2001, Exhibition Park. Yeah. Tell us about the work that went involved to that. It's the first time a lot of those guys were around something like that, independent TV. Halifax?
Yeah, there was a lot of work put into it. I didn't see a whole lot of it, you know, me being part of the roster. You know, they had all their crew, which looking back at it now is really professional. A lot of time the wrestlers get stuck with doing a lot of the duties that they shouldn't be doing. But you know, it was great. You know, it had a really feel-good feeling to it. You know, everything was cool. Everybody was getting along. For that first taping, as far as I can remember, there was no like problems, no last-minute things. Everything just seemed to, you know, just to fall into place. And just from what I remember, it was really smooth sailing. It was a good show, very well made, I thought.
September 2001, about a month and a half later, you had what a lot of people call one of your best matches. It was a ladder match against Bobby Roode. Exhibition Park again, here in Halifax. Tell us about that match.
Wow. My kidneys haven't been the same since. You know what, I'd have to agree with whoever said that about our best match, because I mean, it would definitely be in my top 5, if not top 3. I'd have to actually sit down, but it's up there. I mean, we had this ladder match, I think we did it 3 or 4 nights. I know we did Halifax, Kokan, and I think possibly North Sydney. But our best, or actually we did it in Irishtown. I think it was, not Kokan. Yeah, Kokan. We did another hardcore in Irishtown. Me and Bobby wrestled so many times. Yeah, the one in Kokan was the best one. And I think, you know, because for those of you who don't know, Moncton, Kokan is like 20 minutes away from me, so it's basically my hometown. So, you know, I had that extra surge of adrenaline going, and I wanted to put on a good show because all my family and friends are there. But man, we had one hell of a fucking match with that ladder. Everything we did was tight, everything just clicked, and that match was a lot realer than a lot of my matches, let's put it that way. I took suplexes on the ladder, like it was just a great match.
At the end of that match was for the Real Action Wrestling heavyweight title. At the end of the match, you'll climb the ladder to get the belt. It ripped in half. What happened there?
Cheesy replicas, I don't know. Fork out some money and get a real fucking belt.
Now, you weren't brought back. Real Action Wrestling in Halifax, anyway, ran 2 more shows after that.
In October?
Yeah, one in October, one in November.
Yeah.
You weren't brought back. You or Chi Cruz weren't brought back for either of those. If there's any particular reason?
Yeah, that's simple. I mean, Real Action Wrestling at that point, I'm not quite sure where they stood financially. I'm sure they might have turned a profit, but they were, at that point, they probably broke even. Because even though it was a very successful summer, there's a lot of expenses, especially with a roster like we had. So it's simply, you can't take, like with all the talent that was here locally, I mean, you had Peter Smith, Mike Hughes, you know, Duke McIsaac, all these guys that were already local, to take one guy out, or 2 guys out, like myself and Chi Cruz, really wasn't going, you know, Bobby Roode was coming down because he's only in Ontario, right, so it's not an expensive trip. But you start flying guys from Winnipeg, Calgary, you're looking at like $700-800 for a flight, right? So I mean, that's a lot of money to bring in a guy for one show. It's just not, you know, if we had like superstardom power, you know, if I was Hulk Hogan, it's worth bringing guys in. But it's just not financially smart to do such a thing.
Now, there's no shows ran here generally in the winter. You went back out west after that last Real Action Wrestling tour. What did you do during the off season, 2001, 2002 winter?
Well, actually, it definitely wasn't an off season. Can-Am Wrestling at that time was going strong, very strong. They weren't like the Maritimes where they just go 7 days a week full time. Can-Am, it's all based on tours. You know, like Steve Wild, Otto, and Steve Gillespie were the 3 main guys in Can-Am who ran the thing. You know, Otto would call me up and say, they always called me bad boy over there, but said, yeah, we got a tour coming up, man. We got like fucking 5 weeks, or we got 6 weeks, or we got 4 weeks, or even 2 sometimes, right? So it was good, you know. You'd be gone for 4 or 5 weeks, come back, and when we were gone, we were usually wrestling 5, 6 nights a week. They make sure that the tour, you know, if we had a day off, it was traveling, right? Because we did Yellowknife, Yukon, we did fucking way out there, like driving for 24 hours before we get to our first town. So just did that, man. I worked a couple of odd jobs in between times, like, because sometimes, you know, we'd do a 4 or 5 week tour, then we'd be back for 6 weeks without work, and then we'd go back and for another 5-week tour, and then, you know what I mean? So I just pick up odd jobs. I was working at a bar in Calgary, you know, beating people up and shit. So it was, you know, just do whatever I could to get by. You know, did a few local Stampede shows too.
In when the 2002 Maritime season rolled around, there was no longer just the one prominent promotion. There was Atlantic Coast Wrestling and Real Action Wrestling. Were you contacted to go to ACW at all? Originally?
Yes, I was. Yeah. Opposed from the Grand Prix time, where that was an easy decision. I got treated with nothing but respect, and everything that was promised to me was given to me with Real Action Wrestling in 2001. So for me, it wasn't a hard decision. To me, hands off, it was Real Action. Why would I go work for another promotion when these guys have treated me like gold? Like, it just didn't make sense. What surprised me is that a lot of people were going with ACW, right? Mike Hughes, Peter Smith, Flesh, I think. Sin was another one. And I was like, what the fuck's going on? I said, why are these guys going with another promotion? I never talked directly to Bobby Bass or Buddy Lane or whoever the fuck was in charge, Sneaky Martin, they call him. I talked to the boys. And the funny thing is, this is how tight the Maritime crew was at the time. Everybody, myself, Flesh, Pete, Chi-Chi, Mike Hughes, we were all together, and we're all like, okay. I told them, I'm working for Real Action, that's all there is to it. Pete was like, well, I'm working for ACW, because they're offering more money, right? It all came down to money. I mean, ultimately, that's what it always comes down to. And that's always what fucks everything up half the time, right, is money. So they were promised more money, so, you know, why wouldn't they, right? So I was offered a bit more money than I did the first summer of 2001. And I said, and I told Warren, I said, listen, I said, I'm going to stick with you guys. You guys have given me no reason to go elsewhere, right? So if I would have went with ACW, I would have got the same money. But I figured, why am I going to do that? So the roster, I don't know names and exact fucking who went where, but it was pretty much split in half, right? You had one, and that was very unfortunate because it drives me fucking crazy to know if that had never happened, Real Action might be still here today. Maybe. They probably still would have went into some financial problems, but maybe not. It's just one of these things that I guess we'll never know now. But it really, really fucking makes me think sometimes, and I wonder, what if that had never happened? If we would have all stuck together, if, you know. So I think really, like, nobody's to blame. I think everybody made a personal decision. Nobody's pointing fingers at anybody. The only people to blame, I think, is Bobby Bass and Buddy Lane. And, well, Buddy Lane, I think he was drug into it as much as we were. You know what I mean? I think, because he took off. He saw the light and he said, fuck you guys, and he took off. But I just wish Bobby Bass, I think Bobby Bass was definitely, he's the guy who came in and started the promotion. If he would have just stuck with Warren and they could have worked something out, then something might have happened good.
with all the talent that did leave Real Action Wrestling in 2002, left a couple spots open for some new talent to be brought in. One of the guys they brought in just works 2 shows, Barry Horowitz.
Yeah.
You got to wrestle him both nights.
Yeah.
What was it like working with him?
It was good. It was actually a bit of a learning experience too. I mean, it's always good to work guys like that. You know, guys who've been on TV, guys who've been in the business for years. And Barry Horowitz is, I hope a lot of people look up to him. You know, he's never been like a superstar. He was always known as the jobber. But man, I mean, you can really learn a lot. I mean, his lifestyle is really different than your stereotypical wrestlers. I mean, most guys, wrestlers, they just want to party, they want to drink, and you know, you just live the lifestyle. You know, and Barry Horowitz was just, you know, he's one of those guys always concerned about his health, always concerned about his diet. Oh, you know what I mean? Like, kind of like walk the straight and narrow line. Like, he never got his sleep at night, you know, like, you know, came back to his hotel room, called the wife, you know what I mean? Like, really, he's definitely a guy that more people should look up to, or guys like that, you know, people should look up to these guys.
There were also 2 other guys brought in from British Columbia. They wrestled for ECCW out there.
They still believe to this day that flying lobsters exist.
Aaron Idol and Sweet Daddy Devastation. They didn't get along with a lot of people down here.
No.
Any particular reason why?
Yeah. Aaron Idol, I liked him. If Aaron Idol would have came down here by himself, he would have been fine. Sweet Cack, as we used to call him, he came down, and he's the one who had a little bit of a chip on his shoulder. That's not really what set him apart from the rest of us. What happened is, we were, you know, like a family on the road, right? All the boys would stick together. So let's say we get to the arena early, and you know, they're setting up the ring and whatnot. So we're all sitting around killing some time. All the boys are sitting here chit-chatting, talking. They would be on the other end of the arena bouncing a ball off the fucking wall. We're like, that's weird. You know, like, they always stuck together, these 2, and never associated with the boys. And we're like, you know, afterwards we're like, okay, well, whatever, like, it's just the way they are, like, what the fuck. But then people start really getting pissed off by that, because I mean, if you're one of the boys, you're one of the boys, right? If you're keeping to yourself all the time, people are like, well, what the fuck's up, right? Why are these guys like that? So we tried talking to them, and that's when we realized that Sweet Cack had a chip on his shoulder, right? So you bring him up, be all defensive and stuff, and people just, Johnny got so Johnny Wise guy, he got so fucking pissed off at him. I thought he was going to kill him. And Johnny's, he's not the guy you generally want to piss off. He just looks like a guy who, you know, fuck you up pretty good. But anyway, they just rub people the wrong way. But I think it was mostly his doings, Sweet Daddy. Because, like I said, I liked Aaron. I pulled Aaron aside. I had a couple matches with him too, with Aaron. And, you know, we got along great. And I think he was just, you know, because obviously they're the BC boys and they stuck together, you know, which I can understand. But they should have just associated with the rest of the boys a lot more, and everything would have been fine.
On June 10th, 2002, 2 guys that didn't come back to Real Action Wrestling, Mike Hughes, Bobby Roode, returned to Raw after a disagreement with ACW. Did you think that was going to hurt your spot on the card at all? Where you...
What do you mean?
Where you had stayed with the Real Action Wrestling from the start.
Yeah.
And they were coming back now. They were 2 pretty big names.
Oh, you mean when they came back to Real Action?
Yeah.
Oh, no, of course not. I mean, I'm pretty secure with my spot. And I'm not one of those guys that, you know, like Bobby Roode and Mike Hughes are coming back. And I'm like, oh no, maybe I won't be in the main event. That is the least of my fucking worries. I personally don't like being in the main event, even though 90% of the time in the Maritimes I am in the main event. It's not by choice. I honestly, whether I'm first match or whether I'm last match, it's irrelevant to me. I go in there, give them 110%. But of course, I wasn't worried at all about my spot. I mean, it's to me, I was just happy that they were back, you know, because then you start seeing real action form to what it was the year before, right? Mike was coming and Bobby was coming. I'm thinking, here we go. This is going to be the real action wrestling of 2001 again. So I was just excited that they were back.
At what point in time did you start to see that things were starting to fall apart with real action wrestling?
Well, obviously, there was no signs of it, you know, aside from a couple bad shows with every promotion has, which in 2001 Real Action Wrestling had. You know, some of the shows you're going to get fucking 75 people or 50 people, right? It happens. So it wasn't really an attendance thing. Of course, you know, everybody's heard the fucking story, but, you know, we get paid every week. So a check bounces. And I'm like, okay, what the fuck's going on here? But now you got to remember, if you take a check, you go cash it at the bank. We're paid weekly. By the time I cashed my second check, I had 2 checks cashed. The first one that I cashed the week before came back as it bounced. So I'm like, whoa, guys, that check you gave me last week bounced, right? Oh, whoa, okay. You know, they're just, all right, fine, it bounced. We'll fix it up. We'll fix it up. So I'm thinking, okay, whatever. At least I got this check, you know. So I get my. So the second check. How did that work? Then I realized the second check bounced. So I'm like, whoa, what the fuck is going on here? So now I'm getting kind of pissed off. I said, listen, this is fucking 2 checks that bounced. This is not cool, right? So then they, of course, I remember this was in, what's that little place? It's where we thought Butcher Vachon was going to die in 1998. I think it was Lunenburg. Liverpool, that's where it was. So we're in Liverpool, get a check, Brian Marchand give it to me, and at this point, I'm looking at him saying, you're giving me another check. And he just goes, don't worry. So I grab the check out of his hand and I just drop it. He says, what the fuck are you doing? So I'm just checking if it's gonna bounce. Just like that. Brian just fucking put his head down and walked away, right? Sure enough, it didn't literally bounce, but it fucking bounced in the bank. So 3 checks that bounced, and that was one, definitely the biggest financial setback I've had in wrestling. I mean, shit, I was out, when it was all said and done, I was out about $2 grand, a little over $2 grand after that summer. So yeah, I was pissed off.
Your last match in Real Action Wrestling, July 29th, 2002. It's a ladder cage match against Chi Cruz. You hadn't gotten paid in a while. What were your thoughts going into that match?
Well, I mean, everybody was getting a little cranky at that point, but everybody was professional about it too. I'm actually shocked that a lot of people just didn't walk or just didn't fucking kill people or something. You know what? We just showed up and it was a TV taping, and you know, we didn't know what the future was holding for us, so we just wanted to go in there and get this TV taping done. And I don't know, it might have affected me in a way that I didn't realize in the match maybe, but I mean, that by far wasn't, you know, it's not in my top 20 or 30 matches, that cage match anyway. It was an okay match. I mean, it was fine. But both me and Cheech could have done a way better match. I mean, he agrees on that too. Cheech was sick that day. He didn't know if he was going to be able to make it that day to wrestle. And then he just fucking got his shit together and said, let's fucking do it, right? So there was a lot against us in that match, but we just went out and did the best we could. You know?
Real Action Wrestling closed after that. Then you went to start to work for ACW, who closed a couple weeks after that.
Yeah.
What were your thoughts on the maritime wrestling at that time?
Well, me and Duke we're sitting around one day. It was me, Duke, and Kathy. We're sitting in the fucking grass somewhere in Halifax at some park or something. I think it was, I don't know what the fuck it was. The beach, yeah. Didn't even know there was a beach in Halifax. We were sitting around, and I think I called Bruce or somebody. Anyway, me and Duke were talking to them. I said, listen, Real Action Wrestling is done. Is there any way that we can fucking work some shows with you guys? So anyway, they said, yeah, come on down. Our first show was in Petitcodiac, I believe, with ACW. So we got in Duke's Intrepid and drove out to Petitcodiac and did our first show with ACW. We wrestled, oh boy, now that I'm thinking about it, fuck, there's a lot of crazy stories coming from that 2-3 weeks that we worked with ACW. Craziest stories in the world. That's for the next NewScott DVD. Yeah, it was pretty upsetting. I was only set back about, I mean, they paid me some money. They ended up owing me about, I don't know, between $300 and $400 when they left. But at that point, remember, I hadn't got paid in a month, right? Because all the bounce checks, and like I'm fucking, like I was this close to an emotional breakdown. Like just couldn't handle it, man. Like you bust your ass off all summer, wrestle fucking 7 nights a week, you know, and all that for nothing, right? So, you know, you go from one letdown, and then we figured, well, if we can get a bit of money, right, finish the summer off, and we got fucked over there too. So it was rough, man.
Was there any talk, if anybody could get paid off, the Real Action Wrestling or ACW, to start back up in 2003?
No, I mean, I think there were talks, but I mean, obviously, I kind of knew ACW was just going to fade and be gone. I knew that was going to come back because it was really, it just wasn't strong enough. Like, not talent-wise. I mean, there was a lot of great talent in ACW. But I knew that it was going to be, especially you bring a company in the first time, like Real Action Wrestling, they did everything right in 2001. Everybody got paid, everybody's happy, so they're going to come back. You don't bring a fucking promotion in, you get fucked over, and then run it again. So anyway, yeah, I knew ACW was done. And Real Action Wrestling, I think they were still talking. I kept in contact with Warren Olsen throughout the years. He paid me back some money. He paid me actually a third of what he owed me. And I mean, I'm kind of forgive and forget, you know. Mind you, I'll never forget. But I mean, I just kept friends with Warren. You know, he knows how things fucked up. I mean, he knows that he owes a lot of people money, and he wouldn't do anything as far as he'd like to. Him and Brian both would like to. I think what they want to do is one last Real Action Wrestling show. You know, just to get all the boys that we had in 2001 and just have one big show and just to end off on a good note. But I don't know if that's ever going to happen, because I mean, this is how long now? 4 years? You know, like, and they still owe people money, right? They owe me still money. Like, I don't hold it against them anymore. It's like, you know what, fuck, it's, I still like to have my money, but, you know. But I mean, guys, like I said, I kind of, not forget about it, but I forgave the whole thing, where people like Duke, you know, you bring that topic up, and he gets fucking infuriated, like, you know, he's mad, you know. I think Lincoln Steen's another guy. Some people, you know, take it to heart. I mean, which they should. I don't blame them. But I don't think, I know for a fact that these two promotions will never exist again unless a lot of money starts arising from somewhere.
At this point, was there any contact made to bring you into mainstream wrestling?
Is this like a certain time of year?
Started 2003. Well, after Real Action Wrestling in 2002, nothing started up 2003. Had you had any contact, or what have you heard about mainstream wrestling, and have you had any contact?
You know, at the time, like, I mean, this is what people were saying back then too, that they're running shit shows. you had guys like Scott Savage and Lincoln Steen. You know, mind you, they've gotten 100 times better since those days. But, I mean, I really didn't have an opinion about them at the time. It was just, whatever, they're just a promotion, you know, basically a lot of skinny guys. And they're just doing shows, you know. I didn't really care. It didn't affect my life any. But no, there was no contact at that point from them.
In 2003, no promotion here. The Maritimes opened up, ran full time, like years and years prior to that. What did you do in that time? You were out west. Did you continue wrestling out there?
When was this?
2003.
The summer?
All year. There's no shows here. 2003 until the fall, except for mainstream wrestling.
It wasn't the summer. ECPW.
Oh right.
Yeah. I was
Up
gonna
until
say, there's been some
ECPW.
every summer,
Yeah.
Same thing. Can-Am, they folded. Can-Am Wrestling, I think was, God, 3 years ago, I guess. So it was 2003. They still would have been going. That would have been their last year. So I was still wrestling with Can-Am and other promotions that sprung out west. That's about it. Odd jobs. Same as I did the same thing the whole time I was there. Out west.
In the summer of 2002, Jeff Jarrett, they opened up a promotion, NWA TNA, based out of Tennessee. Did you have any contact to go with them when they originally started up?
No, not from the beginning. No. I mean, I never contacted them or been contacted by them, you know, at that time.
In the summer of 2003, Sheldon McLean, gentleman from Cape Breton, contacted you about doing some shows and booking some shows for ECPW.
Yep.
What were your original thoughts on that?
Well, I was just thinking, hey, this is the chance to get back in the Maritimes, right? Because, I mean, it became a habit for me. Like, you know, winter times I'm out west, and then summer times I come back home and do some wrestling. So Mike Hughes was supposed to be the booker and pretty much, you know, work out the show. Mike got booked in England and couldn't do it. And this was kind of last minute, you know, it was only like a month or 5 weeks before. So I was booked for that tour. Mike had called me and asked me if I wanted to work for ECPW. I'm like, yeah, of course. So I forget if I contacted Sheldon or if he contacted me. I think we were talking on MSN or something. And Sheldon said, well, bud, he says, I have to cancel the shows. And I was like, cancel the shows? So what's going on? He said, well, Mike's going to England. I said, yeah, I heard something about that, but I wasn't 100% sure. So anyway, I offered, I said, listen, I said, Mike's not going to be there. Don't bother canceling the show, just let me take over the book. Like, I'll hire the guys, I'll get the roster, I'll work out the show, and we'll just go from there. And he was like, he wanted to run some shows, and that was all there was to it. He was like, you do that for me? I said, yeah, of course. You know, so I just kind of set everything up, and we did the shows.
In July of 2003, you went to work for Mainstream Wrestling for the first time. You worked at Curly's in Enfield. How did you get involved with Devin Chittick, Mainstream Wrestling, for that show?
I just got in touch with, I forget who got in touch with who. I think Devin got in touch with me to see if I was going to be down in the Maritimes. He wanted me to do some shows with him. So I thought to myself, well, I mean, if I'm down there and I got to go down there for ECPW anyway, you know, might as well make a couple extra bucks when my day is off. So anyway, I worked out a deal with Devin. He threw in some money for the flight and stuff like that. Or I think that was that year. It was the year before. No, it wasn't that year. Sorry. So anyway, I agreed to do some shows with him. It was nights I wasn't working anyway, so yeah, he got in contact with me, and that was the end of that.
Now, the last set of ECPW shows, September 2003, ended up getting canceled. Then I contacted you about working the first Maritime Cup. What were your initial thoughts on me running a show?
Well, I mean, at that time, any offer that came for wrestling was a little like, you know, do you have fucking money? I mean, that's pretty much what's going on, because, I mean, you got to think, being fucked over by RAW and then get fucked with ACW, you know, it's time to make money. So I was pretty hesitant on grabbing anything, but I had a pretty good idea that this was going to be, you know, it's just a one-shot deal. You know, it was. I was happy to hear that we had, like, you know, Bobby Roode and guys like that on the card. So it looked like a good lineup. It was good.
When I asked you to work the show, you originally told me that you only wanted to work one match and not two. Mm-hmm. You wanted to go under in the first round. Mike was pretty much booking the show itself.
Yeah.
He told me that you should work twice. Was there any problems with you doing that at that time?
No, not really. I think at that point, I mean, as much as the whole screw job with Real Action Wrestling ACW losing money, if anything, it kind of made me stronger, and it made me rethink. You know, I'm like, you know what? I'm going to start calling shots here. You know, this is how much money I want. This is what I'm going to work. Just being a little more demanding, I guess, for certain stuff. And that's pretty much the reason. I was like, you know, I'm not going to go there for, I don't even remember what the hell you paid me, but whatever it was, like, I didn't want to work 3 times, you know. But then when Mike talked to me and showed me what it was, and I figured, hey, I got to work Bobby Roode too, right? So I was like, hey, you know, I had no problems at all working after seeing the lineup and how it was going to work out. But the last thing I wanted is, like, if you would have said, no, I want you to go over the Maritime Cup, no way. It was just, not that other people were more deserving, but I think it would just, I hate being main event. Did I mention that? You know, it's just one of these things. I just like being in the card, you know?
Now, the first person you worked on that show, first time you ever wrestled Tony Armstrong. Mm-hmm. At that time, Tony was pretty much known as just a mainstream wrestling guy. He was their champion going into the show.
Yeah.
Did you have any worries about working with Tony? Because you didn't know much about him?
I don't think I've ever had a match where, well, I've had some matches where I'm worried, but Tony definitely wasn't one of them. I didn't really know Tony at that point. You know, I heard he was all right. You know, he was a good worker. Fine, whatever. I was actually blown away by his movement in the ring. Like, I went in there and I'm just like, okay, I'm wrestling a fat guy, right? So I was about 260 at the time, and I was, and my body fat wasn't 7%, let's put it that way. It was, yeah, I had a bit of a gut. I was big, it looked okay, but just a lot of fat. I blew up in that match, and Tony wasn't. Like, he was wrestling circles around me, and he was at like 400 pounds at that point. I'm like, man, but he really, really fucking proved to me that he was a fucking decent worker. Like, he, totally opposite of what I thought was good. Everything he did was nice and soft, everything was good, and we seemed to click pretty good in the ring too. I don't think there was even one fuck up in that match.
Now, you've said a few times throughout this interview that you don't want to be in the main event of a show. You'd rather work the opener somewhere during the card. Any particular reason why?
Well, it's not that I don't. I mean, I imagine if I would have been one of those wrestlers that never worked the main event, I'd probably be sitting there whining about why I'm not in the main event. But I don't know. I think it's a comfort thing. For one thing, I don't have an ego. So if you put me first match, I'm not going to sit there and say, what the fuck are you talking about first match? You know, and it, you know, like, I want to be up. It doesn't matter. If I work in the wrestling industry to make the card better, to put whatever I can. So if I'm in the first match, well, I'm going to do what I have to do to make it work in the first. You know what I mean? Like, it's just. I think it's. I don't like the extra pressure. I don't like the extra stress. I don't like the extra tension. I just kind of like being there without too many spotlights on me kind of thing. But it usually doesn't work that way.
Now that was the last show that had that much talent on it held in Halifax to date. Is there any? Why do you think that is?
Well, I guess you know, you got Bobby Roode, of course, who's working for TNA. I mean, he can't be. I mean, if we want to use him, we got to pay a lot of money now. You get a few people in the industry that aren't doing as much. You know, like Mike Hughes hasn't been involved in the last few shows, and that's pretty much you know, just a personal issue with him and Peter Smith. But I think there's no money to bring guys in. I mean, you can only use, if you're going to use all local guys, yeah, I mean, you gotta, you know, you gotta, you do what you can do. I mean, you can't, if you can't fly anybody in, what do? That's all you can't create a fucking 260-pound monster and put him on your card. I mean, it's just local talent. Nobody's got money to bring people in.
Now, 2004 was much like 2003, other than ECPW, except in 2004 ECPW didn't run any shows. There was no shows ran other than mainstream wrestling. In the fall of 2004, you went to work for Devin Chittick shortly after you moved here. How did that come about? Actually, you did a show in the summer too, in Digby, I believe.
Yeah, because I did a few shows. I did what's that fucking bar?
Doolittle's.
Yeah, Doolittle's. I did that in Digby. And wasn't there another? Yeah, Berwick. So I did a little tour there. Basically, I was. Devin had paid some of my flight. I was coming down to the Maritimes no matter what, so he agreed to pay some of my flight. So it was just, you know, I was getting money for coming down, and it was shows. You know, I didn't care. Like, fuck, if I can get some extra matches, make a few bucks. That's what it's all about. 'Cause I needed the money at the time. You know, I was fucking traveling back and forth, you know, from Calgary to here, so. It's basically just a business deal, man. Called me up, want to work, sure.
Now, the promoter, Devin Chittick, has kind of got a reputation of not treating everybody so well.
Yeah.
How did he treat you?
You know what? Devin Chittick, one-on-one, me and him, we get along. He's never rubbed me directly the wrong way. He's never, like, said anything towards me. Devin Chittick is everything you hear about the guy, you know. You hear this and you hear that, you hear this and you hear that, and it's always the same things coming from a bunch of different people. So obviously, unless everybody is lying, you know, it's the truth, right? Devin Chittick has got a past with my girlfriend, like kicking her out of a venue for whatever reasons, because he didn't like her, or, you know, it's just, so I don't like Devin Chittick for those reasons. Like, I've heard him say negative stuff about me, about my school, you know, like, oh, he's just doing it because he's broke. Yeah, what's fucking new? I'm not going to walk around and say I'm fucking rich, because I'm not, you know. You know, mind you, being broke is not the only reason I do the fucking school. I mean, I take pride and passion in the work I do. But, yeah, so I mean, it's too bad he's got to be like that, because to my face in front of me, he's fine, we get along. He's always gave me what he promised. But it's just all the fucking bullshit you hear about him, you know? Like, my girlfriend, she fucking hates the guy. Okay? And the feeling's mutual on his side, you know? So, I mean, I'm not going to sit here and say I like Devin. I don't really have a relationship with Devin, so, you know what I mean? But all the shit that has been said, people after people. I've got 5 students that come to my school that's paid him and they're paying me money now to learn the stuff that he couldn't, right? So, you know, it kind of speaks for itself. I mean, like I said, I don't really like the guy, but I'm not going to sit here and bitch at him and curse at him because he's never directly done anything to me, right? It's like I said, it's just the biggest thing, you know, it's with Devin and Kathy, you know. Obviously, if he says something about her, it's going to affect me, right? She's part of me, right? So, I mean, you can't fucking do that stuff, you know. He's done a lot of things that, you know, I don't agree with, but that's his business, right? Like, I'm very like, what you do is what you do, and, you know, I've got nothing to do with your fucking life, so, you know what I mean? But aside from that stuff, you know, what more can I say? Devin's Devin.
Can you see yourself going to work for him at all in the future? No. In the fall of 2004, you worked a show for Marco Estrada's ALA promotion in northern Quebec.
New Brunswick.
Oh, sorry, northern New Brunswick.
Close enough to Quebec, though.
Same language. You wrestled two guys.
Yeah.
Probably didn't deserve to be in a ring.
No.
Tell us about that match.
Well, basically when I got there, I talked to Marco and see what he wanted to do with the card. And he says, "Oh, I want to put you, do you mind beating up two kids?" is what he told me. Like, just two guys, you're going to go in the ring and you're just going to put the fucking boots on for about a minute and then we'll have our match. Whatever, I don't care. Let's do it. So, yeah, what was the question?
The match with the two guys. Yeah. What happened in that match?
Oh, I just beat him up. Yeah, I went in there and I made it very simple. You know, I just said, okay, I'll fucking do this. I'll throw you in there. I'll fucking whatever we went. I don't remember what the fuck we did, but they were just fucking everything up. I was like, Jesus Christ. So then I started getting mad, and of course I started fucking hitting them for real, and I was fucking putting a shit kick into them. Apparently they enjoyed it though. They knew they deserved it. So I've talked to, I know at least one of them after the fact, and to this day he fucking thanks me and everything. So, you know, it's not his fault if he wasn't trained properly, right? It's not like he told somebody, I'm going to fucking wrestle tonight, there's nothing to do about it. You know, someone didn't take the time to fucking train him properly and put him in the ring, right? So you can't blame the guys for it. You gotta blame the guy training them.
In the winter 2004, Mike Hughes, Peter Smith opened up a training school around Moncton, New Brunswick. Mm-hmm. You spent some time up there. What were your thoughts on their training school?
I was only there for 2 days, I think. 1 or 2 sessions I was there. It was good. It was good, man. I mean, that's where I pretty much got the idea of starting my own wrestling school. I figured, man, you know, if I can get a spot, you know. But I was in Calgary at the time, of course, so it was kind of a little bit harder. But yeah, I thought they ran a really good school. They taught them well. I mean, Mike and Pete have come up with, you know, good talent. You know, you've got Duke McIsaac, of course, being their best talent that come out of their camp. You know, I got Vinny Glide, Zero, Marco. These guys are all, you know, decent workers. So, I mean, Mike and Pete did very well training these guys.
During the winter of 2004...
Cinder. Can't forget Cinder.
You never
Sorry,
forget
buddy,
Cinder.
I won't forget Cinder. But yeah, I mean, I could go on here, but you know.
What were your thoughts on the 2 students that actually finished that camp? Started with like 6 or 8, I believe. Dice and Zero, the only 2 that finished.
Yeah. What do I think of them?
Yeah, for them completing the school and everyone else dropped out.
I'm actually happy for them. I mean, they're obviously the guys that had what it takes to stick it out. You know, Zero, Jeff has become a pretty good friend of mine now. And, I mean, he's got a lot of talent. You know? Dice, on the other hand, I think he's got issues that he needs to deal with. A guy that just broke into the business. I mean, you've got night and day. You've got Zero, who's doing all the right things, and you've got Dice, who's doing all the wrong things, right? And I mean, you can't get booked on a show and not show up. You can't show up at shows and get drunk before you wrestle. That is just completely unprofessional and completely fucking ridiculous. You just do not do that, especially at that point of your career. I mean, because of this, Dice will never be booked for Wrestling with Reality. I mean, Dice will never be booked for any promotion that has any kind of meaning that's going to be good in the Maritimes. He's got a lot of fucking sucking up to do, and he's really got to redeem himself if he ever wants to work in the Maritimes.
Also during the winter 2004-2005, there was a lot of talk about a full-time promotion starting up in the spring of 2005. Mike Hughes and Peter Smith being the force behind it.
Yeah.
That never happened. How come?
Basically, from what I talked to Pete and Mike, and Trash was a little bit involved. He was helping with, you know, this Trash Canyon is very bright when it comes to business and numbers. They just jolted the numbers together, and it just wasn't panning out. And I mean, they've been in a situation where promotions have lost money, and when they looked at the expenses and they looked at the revenue, they're like, ain't gonna happen.
When did the idea for Wrestling with Reality first come around?
About a year ago, exactly a year ago. I think it was, I think the original idea, again, came from Pete, Mike, and Rick Doyle, Trash Canyon. I think they were talking about it, you know, here and there, and then finally Pete let me in on it, let Duke in on it, and when they told me about it, I was like, man, that's a good idea, you know. And we just went from there, you know. And then, you know, obviously Mike Hughes kind of got pushed out of the loop, so to speak, and that remained with us four, with myself, Pete, Duke, and Trash.
The second Maritime Cup happened in May 2005. Kentville drew over 800 fans. What was your involvement with that aside from wrestling on the card?
Well, obviously the card was there to back up and fund the Wrestling with Reality TV show. So, you know, obviously I was involved in the whole production of the show. I guess Peter Smith informed me that by me doing this and being, we're like pretty much five-way owners of the Wrestling with Reality, that makes me a promoter, I guess a 20% promoter. So I always keep telling Pete that that's why I don't ever want to be a fucking promoter. And Pete said, well, I got news for you. You're a fucking promoter now. What are you talking about, right? I never thought of it that way, but so yeah, I mean, I guess, you know, there was, I had a lot, not a whole lot to deal with, but definitely one of the guys in charge of making sure everything, you know, like at the show itself, I made sure everybody knew their match, who was going over, who was doing what, you know, just placing orders and, you know, adjusting the card, stuff like that. So pretty big involvement.
What are your thoughts on the success of that show?
Fantastic. Man, if we could have one show like that a month, we'd be laughing. I mean, that was, you know, aside from a couple of real action wrestling shows, that drew a little bit more than that in Halifax. I mean, that was fucking amazing. That was a great feeling to have that many people. And I think credit goes to Rick Doyle for most of that, for the people showing up, because being his hometown, and I mean, shit, that's, Rick Doyle put a lot of work into it, and Pete did too. Pete put a lot of work, but Rick was the one who had to draw his hometown crowd there, right? And to put 800 people in a small place like Kentville, I think is a fucking astonishing fucking number.
How did Sarah Dunsworth from Trailer Park Boys get involved with that show?
I believe Rick Doyle was talking to her. He was in touch with her first, and I think he just proposed the idea to her. And she's always been kind of fascinated with wrestling. Maybe fascinated is not the word, but she's always been like intrigued, you know. She wanted to know a bit more, so I think this was her way of kind of getting a sneak peek of wrestling, right? Because her being in the TV industry, she just wanted to kind of see what other form of entertainment businesses are like, right? And she's always liked wrestling, so I think she just wanted a little piece of it, see what it was like.
When did you first hear about Grand Prix Wrestling starting back up for 2005?
When did I hear about that? That's
Eric Doucette told
okay, I didn't realize I even knew Eric Doucette at that time. Okay, Eric Doucette told me. Thanks, Kathy.
Did you?
I really don't remember. I just remember that I think I heard that Emile was, which was probably Eric Doucette, and I just called Emile one day, like I used to do back in the day, and just asked him, like, are you running a tour or what's going on? And then at first he was kind of playing the game, which kind of surprised me, because I always thought me going to Grand Prix again was kind of like an open arms thing, right? It's like if I call, yeah, sure, of course. But at first, Emile was kind of like, well, I'll see if, because generally there was supposed to be involvements with WWE, with bringing guys down and all that shit. So he said, I got to talk to them to see how many guys they're bringing. And he says, if I can use you, he basically said, you know, I will. And I'm like, all right, cool, you know. So it just worked out like that. That's how I heard about it.
What were your thoughts on going back to work for Emile?
It was good. It was good. I mean, I've probably gotten what I thought was probably the best shape of my life. Most people would argue with me and say 2001, but I was 215 pounds at the time, where I think 255 pounds is a better shape that I like. But anyway, I got in really good shape, and I mean, working with Emile was good. I mean, shit, we, you know, we did 7 nights a week for, I think we only did like 3-4 weeks, something like that. But it was the same old Grand Prix stuff. I mean, the card wasn't very strong. You know, there's a lot of small guys on the card, a lot of inexperienced guys on the card. But I think me and Duke, you know, with our experience and stuff, we really, and Eddie Watts, of course, the first part of the tour, with us three kind of pushing the card. And Cuban Assassin was a big, his son, of course, Richie. Us four were kind of like the veterans of the tour, and we just kind of all got together, and you know, Eddie would pretty much call the shots, book the show, you know, and then the rest of us would kind of put our inputs in, right? But me and Duke busted our asses. We went out there and gave them a solid match, and usually we come back at the end with a tag and stuff. And it was an all-around good show. For what we had, it was a good show.
There was originally supposed to be 3 months of shows booked, June, July, August. June and August happened.
Yeah.
What happened to the July shows?
Basically, I mean, Emile Dupree is a very successful wrestling promoter. He's done it for years, and we weren't drawing big crowds. You know, it was the usual, you know, 110 people here, you know, 150 there, 100, you know, just not enough to, you had a couple good shows, like Cocan, we draw 300-400, something like that. But he did the whole month and saw that he's not making any money, right? So he figured he'd put the brakes on and just give some time to go by before kicking off again. It was originally wasn't supposed to be that break, but I think he just saw that I don't think he was losing money, but I think he just saw that he wasn't making a profit and figured, you know, he's just going to give it a rest. He probably figured that was the best thing to do.
During the break, Matt Henstock approached you about working a 7-day tour across Nova Scotia, maybe part of New Brunswick.
Yeah.
I don't remember. What were your thoughts on him running a show or a tour?
Well, at the time, I think Kathy's the one who first told me about the Henstock shows. So I got in touch with Henstock, or he got in touch with me, whatever, and we talked, worked out a deal verbally over the phone. It was a good deal with me. Money was good. It was 7 shows or 5 shows, and everything sounded good beforehand. it was good till then. Since it was only talk.
Next question. He booked 7 shows, July 2005, featuring Lance Storm, Matt Hardy, Bobby Roode, rumors of AJ Styles and Rhino coming in. 7 shows got turned down to 3, got turned down to 1. What happened that week? Or that day?
That was a fucking shitstorm of the largest fucking form. You thought Hurricane Juan was bad? Fuck. Well, basically, about a couple of weeks before the show, shit started falling apart. Henstock pulled his usual fucking nowhere to be found. People tried to get a hold of him. Nothing was being advertised. You're a week before a show, there's no posters, there's no nothing. So I'm like, what the fuck's going on? So at this point, I'm thinking, hey, I'm making good money for this week. I want to try to fucking help him out. So I offered my fucking services. I'll say, listen, I'll go fucking put posters up if I have to. Let me know what you need and I'll help out to promote this fucking show, right? All these shows. Nothing. Just didn't hear nothing from him. I'm like, man, what the fuck's going on? And anyway, the night before the show, I think it was the night before, like I was fucking having some hard times. Like I was fucking low on cash. I just moved to Halifax from Calgary, and I mean the money wasn't fucking, just wasn't coming in, right? So Henstock was supposed to give me half the money up front, I think it was. So none of this happened. So on his way to Trenton the night before, I was starting to get pretty mad at him. I said, listen, I said, I don't even have enough fucking money to get to fucking Trenton. I said, you fucking stop by here, give me some money, and then I'll fucking see you in Trenton. Because at that point, I knew something was up, because he wasn't returning calls, he wasn't doing shit. So anyway, the night before, I was at the gym, I was working out. This was like, I don't know, I was waiting for him at home actually. He was supposed to be in Halifax around supper time. So I waited till like 8 o'clock, still not in town. And I looked at Kathy and says, fuck that, I'm going to the fucking gym. I'm not going to wait around for this little fucking weasel another minute. So she's like, well, he's going to be here. I says, I don't think so. I've been waiting here for 3 fucking hours. I said, I'm not fucking wasting any more of my time on this cocksucker. So I was getting fucking pissed off. And I don't get pissed off that easy. So I go to the gym. It's me and Duke. We go to the gym. And he calls me up. I said, where in the fuck are you? Oh, I'm just in fucking Sackville. I said, I'll be there in like 10, 15 minutes. This said about like 9 o'clock. I said, okay, fine. I'm at the gym. This is where it is on Quinpool's, right on the way into fucking, from the highway. He said, okay, I'll be there in about 10, 15 minutes. Gym closes at 10 o'clock. He's still not there. So I'm looking at Duke, and I said, okay. So we're outside the fucking door of the gym, as they're locking up. It's 10:15. I'm like, you know what? I'm not going to be made a fucking fool of. I'm not going to sit here outside in the fucking cold waiting for Matt Henstock to come. I said, fuck him. I was fucking sour. I was like fucking pissed off. I went to rip this fucking guy's head off. So I fucking take off. I'm almost home. The phone rings. Where are you? I said, listen here, you little motherfucker. I said, where in the fuck are you? I'm at the McDonald's right next to the gym. Right, that's where we park. I said, where in the fuck were you? You said you were in Sackville. Fucking, it's going to take you 10 minutes. And this is like an hour and a half later. Oh, we must have been farther than that, right? So I'm like, you fuck. I said, you stay at the fucking McDonald's and don't move. So anyway, I turn around, go to the fucking McDonald's, pull in, and I just fucking ripped into him large. I threatened him. I said, listen, I said, if my money's not there, I said, you leave the fucking country because I will fucking kill you. Like, I was pissed. I've never threatened anybody, but he was the first guy I've ever threatened. And so yeah, I think he got the point that I was pissed off. So he gave me the money, $40 to go to Trenton. And I show up, so you can see at this point, you know, because I knew the other shows were canceled. We were only supposed to have 3, Berwick, Halifax, and Trenton at that point. So I figured, okay. But he still, to that day, swore that he was still going to give me my full guarantee for the week, for the 7 shows, even though we only did 3. It was fine. So anyway, next day comes, we go to fucking Trenton. Get to the arena, everybody's about the same mood as I am. Nobody wants to fucking work. So I go up to head stock, I said, the fuck's going on, buddy? I said, what are we doing here? So he said, well, blah, 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 excuse after excuse. It just never ends with him. It's all lies and excuses. So anyway, I get to the show. I talked to him right before the show started. And he says, I'm going to get you some money tonight, don't worry, right? So fine. So did the show, went over well. It was actually a pretty good show. And afterwards, after the show, he gave me some money. He gave me a quarter of what he had guaranteed me for the week. So anyway, that was fine. He said, I'll square up with you tomorrow. I'll give you the rest of the money when we get in Halifax. Well, sure enough, the Halifax show never happened. Matt Henstock was nowhere to be found. Apparently what he did, he ditched the fucking ring at a gas station or something with the ring in the back, the sound system, the whole 9 yards, sitting there with the fucking keys in it or whatnot. I don't know what the exact story is. So basically, the little fucker just ran. He just fucking didn't tell a soul and just fucking took off. Never told us there was no show. I mean, there's guys at the fucking forum waiting for him to show up, right? So they can set the fucking ring up, and it's like 5 o'clock and there's nothing going on. So we got an inside info from somebody, I don't know who the fuck's, through Vinny Glide, that, you know, that he was heading back to the valley. And he was taking a bus and he was stopping in Halifax, which you were there to witness to. And yeah, basically, I mean, you can see Cinder's DVD for the more information, because I'm not going to repeat everything. Cinder's a better storyteller than me anyway. Why am I plugging Cinder in now?
I don't know.
It's like I owe him or something. I don't owe him shit.
We'll get to him in a minute.
All right.
I gotta buy his DVD to see the whole story now.
Yeah, that's it.
He doesn't hear NewScott
Wait a
on
minute.
DVD.
No, buy my CD. Yeah. But anyways, so yeah, it was just a big fucking shitstorm, man. Everything was fucked up. We basically fucking stopped him at the bus depot where he was doing his fucking connection to the valley. We tried to get money from him. We tried talking to him. We were in contact with his mother, trying to work something out so we just can get our money and trying to find out why he's doing this, right? Like, we didn't want to fucking... We just wanted answers, right? Like, what's going on, buddy? What the fuck? And basically, we got no answers and we got no money. Somehow, we made it on the bus alive. We all kept our cool. We were, I mean... The thing is, we could have went there and just fucking tear a strip out and just beat the fuck out of him. That would have just got us in jail, right? So we figured, you know what? We're just gonna fucking keep cool. One day's day will come, right? It's kind of the way it works. So, I mean, I'm a big believer in what goes around comes around. And, but anyway, that was the state I was in at that time. The shows never happened. Halifax obviously was canceled. It was already 5, 6 o'clock at that point, so we couldn't do anything. That night, the night that the Halifax show was supposed to happen, all the boys pretty much stayed with me and Kathy at our apartment. So we're just having a little party, drinking some beer, you know, fucking having some fun, shooting the shit. And I think it was Mike Hughes who come up with the idea, you know what, guys, we should fucking just run the show in Berwick. Just, you know, let's go get the fucking ring, bring it down here, just give them a show. Just so they don't have to go through the same shit Halifax fans had to go through, where some people paid for advance tickets and, you know, not getting their money reimbursed and stuff. So everybody agreed. You know, there's a couple guys that didn't do it for whatever reasons, and I mean, personal reasons or financial reason, it doesn't matter. They weren't to fucking blame. I don't blame anybody who didn't want to do the show. It didn't happen anyway, but I don't blame anybody who didn't want to. So we tried to pull it off, but then of course, the worst luck in the world. Lincoln Steen goes up to grab the ring truck with his car, and the fucking motor blows in his car. So I'm like, dude, that's fucking awful. It sucks, man. You know, he spends all the fucking time to go up and the car blows up. So anyway, they fucking carry on, grab the ring truck, start driving. The fucking motor in the truck blows up. Like, 2 motors that go in one, like that's, it almost sounds like I'm making it up, but it's a fucking true story. So we get the call, because we're all in Berwick at this point. We had already made the trip to Berwick, and we're just waiting for the ring to show up so we can set it up and fucking get the show on the road. So we get the call, says, yep, ring truck's broken down, and it's fucked. There's no way to fucking get the ring. So we tried to think, like, man, you know, how can we get a ring? But at that point, it was still already too late. So we did what we could to get that show going, but it just didn't work out.
Then, in August or early September 2005, Cinder came to you. You guys had a meeting. Told you he wanted to run a show. What were your thoughts on this?
I remember the original meeting. Cinder called me up. He goes, Gary, can you come over? I gotta talk to you. This was like in August, something like that. I was like, all right, whatever. I was thinking he's got like some, I don't know.
I told you he was going to get married.
Yeah, you know, that could have been like something, or, you know, fucking tell me anything but that. So he comes up, he goes, I want to start my own promotion. And I told him, I said, you're a fucking retard. I said, why in the, I said, first of all, do you have any money? He says, no. I said, you're fucking crazy. I said, why would you want, I tried everything in my power, and he'll attest to this, to not run a promotion. I said, dude, you can't do it. You need money. You need a shitload of money that you don't have. But he was fucking, he was so determined to do this that I thought he was going to pull it off successfully, to tell the truth. I mean, that guy, when he puts his mind to it, I think he did, I can't say he did everything right, because he did. His intentions were there, and I think he did the best he could to try to get this taken out, but there's just a few wrong choices, which he knows now. You know, like booking Terratune. I mean, I love Terratune. I'm into that kind of fucking crazy music, but it's just not compatible with wrestling. You know, you get guys like John Dunsworth was at the show, Mr. Leahy, he was at that show. Do you think he wants to sit there and listen to death metal? You know, it's just not, you know, if you're going to do like a rock and wrestling thing with a band, use a band that it's an easy listen, not easy listen, but at least like rock and roll, like, you know, like play your fucking radio shit, or, you know, the Stones, or whatever the fuck you want to do. Like, it's got to be, listen, best case scenario, probably country, probably the best fucking type of band to put in with wrestling. But just a few wrong decisions, wrong choices, and basically, when the shit started to roll downhill, it was just fucking nonstop at that point. It was just one thing after the other. I've never seen a sequence of fucking bad things happen to anybody, you know? Like, just one thing to the other, from the ring to people not showing up to just, you know, people not showing up, not only the crowd, but I mean the fucking wrestlers. Some of the wrestlers didn't show up too. It just fucking, you know, to me it was a fucking abortion. I was just glad it was over with. But I mean, I don't really think, initially Cinder is to blame, because I told him, I fucking told her so. You know, I fucking told him, like, dude, what are you doing? Don't fucking do this, you know? But he wanted to, and I gotta give him credit for trying, but it just didn't work out, obviously, as we all seen.
When you heard he purchased and was going to use the Real Action Wrestling name, what were your thoughts on that?
Ridiculous. I told, he had a name that he had come up with. It was Revolution or whatever.
Revolution Pro Wrestling.
Yeah, and I thought, hey, that's a good name. But he, again, I've realized this with Cinder after this whole shit kebab, that when he puts his mind to something, he does it, and there's no fucking saying no. There's no changing his mind. And I think that was more of a personal thing, a personal beef, if you want to say. I think he wanted to somehow get back to Warren and Brian for what they did to him, owing him money, right? And, you know, if that was his way of doing it, that's fine. If he got satisfaction out of it, I hope he did, because that would have been the only satisfaction he got out of that whole REW thing. But I never liked the idea. I never... I just thought it was not a good idea whatsoever. I didn't like it, I didn't agree with it. And when I came to the show, I cut a promo at the beginning and just kind of shitting on, you know, how dare you call this real action wrestling. And, you know, and I told Cinder beforehand, I said, listen, I said, I'm going to go out there and I'm going to say some things, but I said, this is just how I feel. Don't take it personally, but this is just, you know. And I just basically spoke my mind, and, you know, Cinder was clear with it, and there was never, not that I know of anyway, because me and Cinder still get along great to this day. But I pretty much, you know, I guess I always, real action wrestling is a memory, a good memory for me. Say it's 2001. Sure, I got fucked over with money, but I think I'd get fucked over again if I could have the good times that I've had with real action wrestling, right? So it's just one of those things where it's one of these better left alone kind of thing. But he chose to do it, and he did it. So.
What were your thoughts when you heard that Warren Olson decided to sue Cinder and myself? Were you surprised at all?
Oh, you were getting sued for that too?
Yeah.
How's that?
Because of the videotapes collection.
Oh.
I got the first letter.
Oh, did you? Yeah. I didn't even know you had any involvements that way, but I mean, it's something I expected. I mean, Warren and Brian, I don't really know what if they're holding on to, you know, real action wrestling. You know, they didn't originally come up with it, but they took it over and made what real action wrestling to people is today. I guess they still have in their mind that they want to do this last show. They want to try to end it off on a good note someday. And in a way, I would kind of like to see that happen. I really don't think it'll ever happen because they owe too much money. And just to get all these people together again might be a bit of a problem. But yeah, it's just, I can see that why they call the war. I mean, they were just fighting fire with fire. And they were just more pissed off about, you know, how dare you take. And they're probably like, why the fuck would he do that?
Yeah, they were suing because he was using the goodwill that they produced to fans.
Yeah. But you know what? To the fans, they produced fantastic will. I mean,
yeah.
Sure, the boys got fucked over, but the fans never got fucked over.
Absolutely.
They got fucking lots of fucking
good shows.
Yeah, good shows, man.
Shortly after that, WWR decided to run another show. They ran a show with not as much notice, not as much time to prepare as the second Maritime Cup.
Mm-hmm.
They ran it in a smaller venue. Why was the show decided to run in such short time?
It was more, the first one was really planned, way ahead of time. The second show, what was the date of that show?
Which one?
The WWR show, the last one.
November 25th?
November 25th. Now, if I'm not mistaken, late September was when this idea came. So it was like, you know, we got to try to do this in like a little over a month, right? So I think it was more, okay, we need to do another episode. Let's get a show done. So I think there was more, like the first WWR show, there was more focus on the actual wrestling event, where this time it was more for the TV show, you know what I mean?
Yep.
And I think that's why, and you know, even though we drew over 800 people the first show, it still basically paid the expenses and the boys, and that was it, right? So I think everybody was a little leery going into it. They were kind of like, yeah, you know, is this going to work? Is this? And I think it just, It was just rushed. It turned out to be a good show. Money was lost. But that's pretty much what happened there. There just, it was just planned a little too late, and it was just kind of a out of the blue thing.
With Peter Smith over in England or Europe for the next couple of months, where does Wrestling Reality stand at this time?
I mean, it's business as usual for Wrestling with Reality, even though Pete's out there and Duke's up there too. I mean, we all stay in touch. Right now, we're just kind of in a period where we're kind of waiting. You know, we got big connections with, you know, some Hollywood producers and stuff like that. So we're just kind of, we don't like sitting back not doing anything. You know, we're still in touch with, you know, the producers and stuff like that. But I think your phone's ringing. So anyway, so yeah, we're just kind of waiting to hear from a few TV networks, just kind of see what's next, you know, because Pete is kind of the general, you know, like he tends to be the more aggressive one. Same as Rick, they're both, but Pete's doing more of the dealing with Hollywood producers. He talks to them directly, so we're just kind of a waiting game right now. Just see what's going to happen in the next little while, and then if something big comes up, I mean, Pete, at a drop of a dime, you know, if something comes up, we need to have a meeting with these producers in Hollywood. Well, Pete will be on the next flight. I mean, I think we're all in agreement that none of us can put this on top of our priority list right now, as far as, like, I can't just focus all my attention on Wrestling with Reality, because Wrestling with Reality is not producing any money right now, right? So, I mean, everybody knows that they can't make a living off it right now. So, but when something comes up, you know, like Pete will drop what he's doing for Wrestling, the same as myself. Like, I'm not on tour or anything, but, you know, I get fucking jobs. I do a lot of touring with, you know, other entertainment groups and stuff. So, you know, if something comes up, well, you know, those things are canceled, and then I'll be focusing on the Wrestling with Reality. And same as Rick, and same as Duke.
There was a deal announced that you were in negotiations with the Fight Network.
Yeah.
How's that going?
I think that was we talked to them. We negotiated whatever deal it was. It's just kind of at a sit still right now, because as soon as we got in touch, when they got in touch with us and they wanted to take our Wrestling with Reality and put it on their network, we were like, oh, this is awesome. But this is when we got in contact with the producers from Hollywood and stuff, and we just kind of, I guess we put it on the back burner for now. I'm hoping that we can move on with it and get it on there, because I really don't think we have anything to lose. I mean, they're on digital. See, we're entering a whole different realm of, we don't know, TV, right? Like, we don't know how all these network broadcasts and how it works. But, you know, I do know that if we go on digital cable, I think our only restrictions is that we can't be on another digital cable channel. We can still be on network TV, we can still be on satellite TV, we can still be wherever, right? So I'm really hoping we get on there. You know, I think pretty much I know the ball is in our court. As soon as we say, okay, let's do this, the Fight Network's going to put it on TV.
Now, starting last October 2005, you started up your own training school. Tell us about the Wildman Academy, how people can get in touch with you, everything about the school.
Basically, the school, it's in Halifax, Nova Scotia, and I mean, you just go to the website, wildmanacademy.com. All the information is there, contacts, whatever you want. So anybody wants to get in contact, wildmanacademy.com.
Now, just before we close out here, go over a little bit of name association. Kingman.
Kingman. Well, he's very, very good friend of mine. Kingman and myself, we've really gotten a lot closer in the last, well, since I've been to Halifax the last year and a half. We've always been great, great friends. He likes to give me credit for getting him in the wrestling business, which is cool. But yeah, I mean, me and him have become tight. You know, we're close. We're like brothers almost. And you can't. A lot of people sit there and they're intimidated by Peter Smith, which they should be, you know. But I mean, he's got such a big heart, and the guy will go far to help somebody out. All he wants in return is effort. You know, like a lot of people sit there and think he's a bully and thinks he's this and thinks he's that. Peter Smith just wants to help people, right? And if you're asking for Peter Smith for help and you don't let him help you, that's where the problem arises. I think that's why a lot of people think that he's, you know, this big, mean, tough guy. I mean, he's a great guy. I don't think there's anybody on this planet that wants the best for everybody, you know? So, I mean, he's just an all-around great guy.
Sarah Stock.
Sarah Stock. I remember the first time I met her, we were with Can-Am Wrestling. Unsure where we were going, probably northern Alberta or Saskatchewan or something. So we were picking up her and Madman at the hotel. And I had met Madman before. I worked some tag teams with him the year before. But I heard this Sarah girl was on the tour too, and we're picking her up. I'm like, oh, cool, you know, new girl, I never seen her before. So she gets in the van, and no more than like, holy shit, what was it? 10 minutes. I didn't think we left the parking lot. She's passed out in the back seat. I'm sitting right in front of her, and she's like this, right? So I was like 265 at the time, no stranger to potato chips. So I'm fucking sitting there looking at her. She's snoring. I'm like, who the fuck walks in a van, half the people she doesn't know, and just falls asleep like that? So I fucking turn around. I start taking pieces of chips. I'm just kind of throwing it on her. She's like this, right? So I'm throwing like little pieces of chips in her mouth and stuff. And then anyway, she finally wakes up. She's fucking just spitting chips everywhere. It was kind of funny how I first met her. But Sarah Stock, she's fantastic. I think I've got a couple students right now that are training with me, and if ever Sarah Stock comes within the Maritimes, she definitely has to come to my school. And I mean, these girls look up to her, and I think every female wrestler should look up to Sarah Stock, because personally, I think she is probably the best wrestler, female wrestler in the world. I mean, I've met a lot of women wrestlers. Nobody has the drive and the talent like she does. Like, it's just phenomenal. You know, there's no reason why she's not making thousands of dollars, millions of dollars with WWE or TNA or whatever it is, right? Because she deserves to be. But she's doing good. She's in Mexico. She's touring the world. She's doing good for herself.
Eddie Watts.
Eddie Watts, good friend of mine, Mo-Chum. I call him all the time. Yeah, Eddie Watts, man, he's quite the character, man, quite the character. I'm glad to be his friend, not his enemy. Me and Eddie get along really good, you know. We don't see each other that often. When we do, it's only, you know, for wrestling tours here and there. Man, I've seen Eddie at the best of times, and I've seen Eddie at the worst of times. And it's just one extreme to another, man. You know, if Eddie's not happy, the rest of the world around him's not happy. If Eddie's happy, everybody's happy. It's just one of those things. But Eddie's a great guy. He's one of those guys, man. If you're ever on tour with him, I don't care if you're a veteran, I don't care if you're a rookie, learn, learn, learn. Eddie Watts has a lot of knowledge as far. I think he should be teaching, really. And because he's got a lot of knowledge as far as wrestling goes.
Jeff Dupree.
Jeff Dupree. Oh boy. Jeff. You know what? Jeff Dupree, the first thing I have to say, I wish he was more like his brother. When I worked with Grand Prix in '98, that's when Renee started wrestling. And a couple days before the tour, me and Massive had come down from out west, and we were at Emil's place a couple days. He had the ring set up in the back. And me and Renee went in there and just fucked around, right? Emil wanted to see what he could do with a guy that knew how to wrestle and shit. So we went in there, fucked around, everything was, you know, snagged. It was good. And Emil, like, Jesus Christ, he says, I'm going to put you two on the tour, like, for us to work together, me and Renee. Yeah, cool, that's awesome. So, I mean, Renee at that point was just trained, never had any matches. Like, he didn't know, he knew how to wrestle, because he was a natural. And we went in there and I just fucking taught him everything I could think of. You know, every night we do generally the same match, but, you know, I'd change up part of the match. I'd do different moves, just so I could introduce him to different moves. You know, one night I'll say, okay, I'm going to give you the abdominal stretch. Or one night I'm going to give you the Boston Crab, or I'm do this, and you do this to me. So he was learning all this stuff, right? And that's just what I wanted to do. Renee wanted to learn. Renee was full of questions. Renee was always intrigued with wrestling. Jeff, on the other hand, knows it all. He never asks any questions. I mean, here's a guy that gets into wrestling, and then if you get guys like myself, Eddie Watts, you know, Richie, Duke McIsaac, and he doesn't want to learn anything. I mean, his wrestling ability in the ring, bad. Like, he needs to learn, okay? Like, he sits there and he'll say that, I know I'm good. No, you're not. Your brother's good. You're not good yet, you know? And it's not his fault. It's not Jeff's fault because he's not good. He just needs to be fucking taught better. That's it. But he doesn't want to give himself the chance. And that's frustrating as hell. And, you know, Eddie Watts one day was fucking telling him, going over the match in the van as we're driving back, saying, you know, this is what went good, this is what went wrong, giving Jeff advice. Midway through the conversation, he throws his fucking headphones on, basically telling Eddie, shut the fuck up. I'm just like, oh my God. Like, he's not even, like, why? You know, wrestling, you want to better yourself. I think, personally, Jeff just wants it for the money. His heart's not into wrestling. When Renee broke into the business, at like 14 years old, Jeff was only 18. He wanted nothing to do with the business. I don't want to wrestle. He reffed a few shows, and that was it. So now that he sees Renee making all this money, all of a sudden Jeff's into wrestling. He wants to, you know, what does that, that's what it looks like to me. I think he's just in it for the money, because it sure doesn't look like he wants to learn, you know? And it's too bad. It's too bad it's like that, because I had a blast with Renee. We had lots of fun. We counted one day, because I keep track of all my matches. And shit, we've worked 72 times, myself and Renee, over the years. So, I mean, we knew each other like a book, right? But it was just a pleasure working with him every match. I had some of my best matches with Renee. And Jeff, I'm lucky if I could pull out a good match, you know? He just needs to learn. And I don't know why he's not taking the free advice that people want to give him. You know, because I tried what I could to fucking help him out this summer, and I basically got spit in the face about it. So, I mean, it's too bad it has to be like that, but that's just the way it is.
Mike Hughes.
Mike Hughes. Fuck, I had a lot of fun with Mike Hughes. Man, some of my best times on the road is involving Mike Hughes, man. You know, just your usual night on a town, you know, like going, you know, we're in Moncton on a fucking Monday night where there's just absolutely nothing going on. Like, we still manage to have some fun, right? It's just just a fun guy to be around, and I'm sure anybody would agree with that. I think I comfortably can say that Mike and I will probably be friends for a long time, hopefully forever. We're not as close as we used to be due to certain things that has happened in the past. It's too bad that Mike's not involved in the Wrestling with Reality thing. Mike is a huge talent. He's a big guy. He's great in the ring, great on the microphone. Mike is an all-around good wrestler. Like, I mean, he's fantastic. But unfortunately, due to personal issues amongst him and other people, including myself at some point, like we've had our ups and downs, but we've corrected our downs, kind of thing. We've talked, and we're on a talking level, and we get along great. But personal issues with other people is what's preventing us from all being, together. And the biggest thing, like him and Pete Smith have a bit of heat, and I can understand why Pete has heat. I mean, I'm completely 100% on Pete's side on that, but I'm just not going to hold their personal issue against Mike on a personal level with myself, if that makes any sense.
Yep.
It's just, I don't feel that I have to hate Mike because somebody else hates Mike. It's really sad that it has to be like that. Yeah, I'm just thinking about the topic. I hope one day that we can all get along. Maybe one day.
Massive Damage.
Ooh, massive damage. If he wasn't massive damage, I'd be fucking dead. By that I mean, I'm not a big fan of hardcore wrestling. I've done hardcore wrestling with a lot of people, but he's the only guy that I've trusted 100% to take some of these moves. Like we had a show in Saskatoon, outdoor show out in the parking lot of a hotel. The rain truck was a 5-ton truck, and anyway, the hardcore match, the finish of our match, he pulls out a table from the back of the truck, sets it up, lays me on the thing, climbs on top of this 15-foot truck, and just fucking splashed me on the asphalt through the table. It was fucking disgusting. Got it on tape. You've probably seen it. NewScott.com. He's got the tape somewhere. But aside from that, me and Massive Damage, I mean, we all say we're two brothers with different mothers, brother. That's what we kept saying all the time. Me and him definitely have a close bond. I mean, we toured fucking together from 90... As soon as I got out west, I met Massive Damage about 6 months into my stay. So midway through 97, I met Massive Damage. And did lots and lots of touring with him right up till probably 2002. And then things kind of slowed down for touring, but then he opened his own wrestling school and promotion, and I've worked for him ever since when I was up there. But Massive Damage, man, I miss the guy. I haven't seen him in a while, and hopefully I'll get up there in Edmonton and do some shows with him again, because he's like a fucking lost brother now. I haven't seen him in a long time.
Rip Rogers.
Rip Rogers. Oh my God. I haven't seen Rip Rogers or talked to him since like 90. Last time I seen him was 97. Last time I talked to him I think was 98, 99. I think that's right. He was another guy that, I don't think I talked about him at the beginning there. He was on that first tour, man. He's another guy. He's been around the business for so long. He knows the ins and outs. And that fucking cheap bastard, man. He could live, I swear to God, that guy could probably, it's a good thing to be a cheap bastard on the road. That guy could probably live on $20 a week on the road. Like, it's fucking insane. Like, the guy would just drink, eat, piss out of the same fucking cup. Like, it's insane. Like, this guy, I mean, I could never do it, but this guy knows how to fucking travel for cheap. But he was a nice guy, man. I remember, you know, he told me lots of stories. He was always trying to help. He put me through a good test, actually. When I started with Emil in '97, I was always winning the match for my first few shows. So when Emil stopped coming on tour with us, when he'd stay home, he'd let Rip Rogers book the show. So Rip Rogers one night changed things around and said, "Kid, it's going to be you and me." Right? That's how he talks, right? And I said, "Yeah, okay, fine." So he says, "We're going to go in there," and he says, "We're going to do the match, we're going to do this, we're going to do that, and at the end, I'm going to pull out some fucking brass knuckles, and I'm going to fucking punch you, and then I'm going to fucking pin you 1, 2, 3, right?" And I was like, "All right, cool." And we did the match, boom, 1, 2, 3, that was it. Back in the fucking locker room after the match, he was like, "That was a test, kid, and you passed." I was like, "What are you talking about?" And he told me basically that a lot of people in my position, starting out in wrestling, and the promoters make them win their matches, after a while when it comes time to lose, well, what do you mean lose? You know what I mean? So that was a test, and you know what? I admire that to this day. Because, I mean, he made me really think about how, you know, luckily I don't have an ego, but people that do, that would fucking, you know, piss him off, and that's what he was looking for. So, I mean, I got nothing but good things to say about Rip Rogers.
Chi Chi Cruz.
Chi Cruz. Oh, man. Fuck, have I wrestled him lots. Yeah, he's another one. Fuck, man, I miss Cheech. I haven't seen him in a few years. Chi Cruz, good friend. I like to say that I'm a good babyface, and I got to give all credit to Chi Cruz, because he's the one who taught me how to be a good babyface. You know, he's the one who showed me, like, always fight back. He's just so good at what he does. He's been doing it for so long, and he's got the art of wrestling pretty much mastered, you know, like he knows the ins and outs of wrestling, and he's helped me a huge deal, and I've had some of my greatest matches against Chi Cruz. Yeah, Cheech, man, fucking awesome guy. It's all good.
Kathy Yetman.
Kathy Yetman, why would you give me that name? Christ.
Thought you might know her.
She kind of rings a bell. Kathy Yetman, wow. Completely changed my life. I think when I was out west, Calgary, I mean, I went there for a good reason. I'm glad I went. I wouldn't change anything for the world, except for maybe the Bret Hart, Shawn Michaels thing. See earlier in the tape. But she brought me back home. I seriously thought I was going to stay out west for maybe not the rest of my life, but for a lot longer. You know, if it wasn't for her, I would still be out there. And Kathy keeps telling me that she's always right. I think I'm starting to believe it. You know, it's funny because I mean, it was my choice. She made sure of that. She never pressured me into moving out here. She never pressured me into anything ever. She pressures me now that she feels that she owns me. But she never pressured me before. She made me make my own decisions, because she didn't want me to come down because she was whining about she wanted me to, you know what I mean? She made sure that if I came down here, that it was because I wanted to, not because of her, right? So, anyway, I just fell in love with her, and I just fucking made huge changes in my life. And the changes I've made to this point have been positive. Wrestling with reality. You know, my normal job is not just fucking slinging beer to drunks. You know, I mean, everything's worked out. I mean, there've been tough times, you know, as far as money situations go, but I think everything I've done so far in Halifax, since I've been back to the Maritimes, have been productive and exciting, you know, and I got to give all that credit to Kathy. Because if it wasn't for her, I'd probably still be delivering mattresses, working a show a month out west. You know, it's just, I guess, like I said, man, she brought me back home, and she's really made home more of a home for me, right? So, yeah, I'll keep her for a while.
Just one last question here. Something that's come up around here in the Maritimes the last couple of months. How important is the look in the wrestling industry? So guys like John Cena or Samoa Joe, or most recently Jason Holiday and Lincoln Steen.
How important is the looks? I mean,
how important is it to have a body?
Well, I mean, it's definitely important. I mean, I'm old school. I've been trained old school, and there's always be a part of me that's old school. I think, I mean, a lot of skinny guys are training, and that's fine, because you don't need to be big to train. But the bottom line is, if these guys want to take wrestling seriously, and if they want wrestling to take them seriously, you have to look like something. You know, if you're 500 pounds, in wrestling that's a look, okay? But you got to be able to move. I mean, look at Tony Armstrong, for example. When he was like 400 fucking pounds, he moved faster than I did in there. He had me fucking blown up, like I was saying earlier. So that shows me, you know, sure, you're a big guy, but this is wrestling. We're a bunch of fucking freaks anyway. So you got to have your fat guys. You got to have your fucking muscle guys. You know, unfortunately, it's not like that anymore. But back to the general question here is, it is important to have some kind of look. You get Samoa Joe. You know, I'm not a big fan of him. I watch his work. What he does looks solid. You know, could be stiff. I don't know. I don't know him personally. Yeah, I know he's got a lot of big fan base. So obviously he's doing something right. And he's not your stereotypical WWE wrestler look. You know, he doesn't look like one of them. But I think his talents in the ring. I mean, for a guy like Samoa Joe, 10, 15 years ago, to come up in wrestling would have been completely normal. I think people now are so brainwashed with having all these fucking big bodybuilders come in. They see a guy like Samoa Joe and think, oh, what the fuck, he's fat. 15 years ago, they wouldn't have said he's fat. He's just a big guy, right? So I think it's a big misconception about a lot of guys. But the skinny guys, like I said, they have to put some size on if they want. I mean, they can compete in wrestling. They can do their little indie shows. They can do little backyard shows. They can do whatever they want. But like I said, if they want to be taken seriously, they have to get some size. They have to get a look. Very, very small percentage of skinny guys are going to, you know, if your ultimate goal is to get to the big leagues, the WWE, TNA, whatever it might be, you have to be somewhat impressive looking.
Any closing comments for the fans of Wildman Gary Williams?
I still have fans. Not really, man. I mean, I guess I gotta sit here and tell the fans, I mean, that I'm very grateful that I've had somewhat of a fan base, and that, you know, the mostly everywhere I've gone to has supported me, which is good. So, I mean, I just thank all the fans, definitely, just to support me. Students coming to my school, you know, I got to thank them. Anybody who's considering coming to my school, you know, it's all good, man.
Top of the page.
In 500 words or less, how great is Tony Armstrong? Haven't I talked about Tony Armstrong enough tonight?
No, you never talk about Tony Armstrong. Huh?
Put the sunglasses on. Zoom in on Tony over here. I don't need 500 words to explain how good that is.
I think I'm the only person in the history of wrestling to ever lose weight and take heat for it.
Look at the broom on his fucking lip there.
Oh, you can't see
I don't want to call you Chachi or fucking...
I like the cough from Chips.
Poncho. What's his name? What's up, Poncho?
Poncho.
What's his name? Something like that. Yeah, that fucking guy on Chips. You know that fucking blowjob. That fucking prick on Chips there.
All right, I'd just like to thank you for your time tonight. I appreciate you doing this interview. And take care.
All right, man. Take care of yourself.
Steen sucks. Yeah.
It's like a skinny curve angle. Look over. We're in the suction. It's skinny curve angle. Where? We're in the
So sit in the back, retard. That's enough of you.
That's not very nice, man. That's not very nice at all.
What? Fight me? I'll rip your bloody lungs out. Come on.
Are you?
Anal man, Gary Williams. Anal man.
Rachel will kick all your ass.
Chi Cruz. Okay, I might not know why, but I don't give a damn. I'll find out. You know what? It's not over yet. I got a proposition for you, little baldy. You too, Chi Cruz. I want a rematch right here where we come back to Halifax, and it's going to be me and the Madman tag teaming against you two jabronis. I'll kick your ass again. Yeah. I'll tell you what. I'll put a stipulation. Since I'm originally from New Brunswick, okay, I am an airtimer just like everybody in this building. Okay? You know what we're gonna have? We'll have a good old-fashioned maritime street fight. And you know what? Shut up, stupid. And you know what? Pinballs count anywhere in the building. I'll beat your ass on the top of that. I don't give a damn. Bring your popsicle sticks. You know why? There will be no disqualification. There will be no count. There will be no rules. So you bring your stick. You bring your balls. And me and the Madman will be ready here waiting for you two assholes.
You two idiots challenge us to a maritime street fight? Well, let me tell you something. In all the years that I've been coming to the Maritimes to wrestle, I've never found one maritimer yet who can fight his way out of a wet paper bag. So now, I'm looking at a pair of idiots that can't fight their way out of a wet paper bag. You want to step in the ring, hardcore rules, street fight rules, looking through the eyes of the Madman. I'll spin your butt, brother. Why? You know why! No, we don't! You're just too afraid to let it be known because these people wouldn't be cheering for you anymore.
Yes, we would.
They be behind me. I know why. You know why. Why don't you tell the people you're too chicken? It's not you. It's not me. You know why. You know why. You know why. You guys want to do it right now? You 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 guys, you want this big shot of music on? You want to do it? Yeah, that sounds so tough. What the hell is a maritime street fight? You get in line in the pub, wander out the middle of the street, take a swipe, fall down. That's a maritime street fight. Even though we fight the hillbillies, we go up to Tim Hortons. You go on a maritime street fight. What I'm gonna call it, there's a maritime street fight. What I'm gonna call it is an ass-whooping street fight. So ladies and gentlemen, you come right back. 17? 27. 27.
Screw you! See you later, sunshine! Till we get weapons!
Hey, Madman.
Ready to
worst thing in the world.
Go!
from the club was there.
Yeah, I see that, but he landed one on the ladder.
right? You like that, do you, pal? We're the new jungle in town, pal. We're gonna rule. That's right. Hey, why don't you shut your mouth? I'll tell you what, why don't you hear what the commissioner has to say?
First of all, what's the cowboy doing here interfering with other people's business? You got no business being here, Bass, in the first place. What happens with the singers happens. It's an internal problem which they developed here. What do you got no business being out here, Bass? You got no business being here. You were hired here to be a commentator. You have a license to be out here, Bass? I say, do you have a license to be out here? Get the hell out of here. You got no business being here.
Well, you all had enough. Let me tell you, Lane, while you were all filling your fat face between 12 and 1, I went into your office and I got a license and there ain't a goddamn thing you can do about it.
See this son of a bitch.
You see that? See, Lane, you ain't got it all together like me. I've been messing with guys like you all my life, but I've been fooling you for 10 years, I'll fool you for another 10 years. As a matter of fact, why did you kiss my ass? There's nothing you can do, Lane. Once again, you've been outsmarted by the smartest group in wrestling.